You're tuning into the Wild, Weird, and Sometimes Normal podcast. If you have a story or a guest recommendation that you think others need to hear, email me at wildweirdandsometimesnormal@gmail.com. Let's get this started. Alex and Brett, kick it!
Wild. Wild. Weird. And sometimes wild. Weird. Wild. Weird. Wild. Weird. Wild. Weird. And sometimes normal.
On this episode, I'm joined by Tyler Campbell, who you may know from the Men of Misfortune podcast. We have a great time as we go around the conspiracy horn and discuss it all. Cryptids, UFOs, nuclear war on Mars, who sank the Titanic and why. We also discussed cults and what happens after you die. We recorded this on a Friday night and turned it into a happy hour party. My language gets saltier the more the episode goes on, so maybe skip playing this one in front of your kids. Check out Tyler's socials. Keep an eye out for his new podcast in January 2024, and let him know you heard him on Wild and Weird. Enjoy the show. Are you looking to buy a home in New Jersey, escape the city and move to the suburbs? Finally purchase a vacation home on the lake or down the shore? Maybe you're one of the lucky ones who are retiring and moving out of state. If so, let me help you. Keller Williams and the Real Estate Professional Group have what you need to make your goals come true. Reach out and have a conversation with someone who will put you first. Contact Brian McCoach at 856-321-1212 or email brianmccoach@kw.com. Are you looking for CBD for your pet? My friends at Pure Pet Wellness have what you need. They use the highest quality ingredients. While other companies may use synthetic oils in their CBD, Pure Pet Wellness uses organic ingredients, organically grown hemp, organic coconut oil, organic shea butter, organic beeswax, and that's just to name a few. A family-owned and operated company that also offers fast shipping. Go to purepetwellness.com for all your pet's CBD needs and use the discount code WILD and WEIRD at checkout. That's WILD, A-N-D, WEIRD. Treat your animal right. Go to purepetwellness.com. Welcome to another episode of Wild, Weird, and Sometimes Normal. I'm your host, Brian, and tonight my guest is Tyler from the Men of Misfortune Podcast. Welcome, Tyler.
Hey, thank you, Brian, for having me on. What's going on, man?
Nothing, man. I appreciate you coming on. That's great. How you doing tonight?
Oh, not too bad. A little tired, a little worn out. The week's been a little rough, but I'm really excited to do this. So, I can't thank you enough for inviting me. We've been planning this for a couple weeks now. So I am so excited to sit down, get to meet you, get to know you, and it's going to be a good ass time.
I'm excited, man. It's going to be great. So Men of Misfortune, shows are out, shows are coming out. What have you guys talked about in the past? What gets you excited?
Oh, man, cults. I am a huge cult serial killer fan.
Nice, man.
So when we started Men of Misfortune, it's one show with 3 different series or topics. We talked about anime, true crime, and bizarre news stories. Now, the news stories are always fun because, you got a group of your buddies and you're like, you want to hear about this dipshit from Florida who tried to stick his hand in an alligator's mouth while smoking a meth pipe? It's like, haha, it's funny.
Always Florida. Always Florida.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, we wouldn't have had a show if it wasn't for Florida. Anime is something that I have been watching since I was like 9 or 10. Like, it's been pretty much a huge influence in my life. If you ever see my house, it's covered wall to wall. My shower curtains, Cowboy Bebop. My fucking bedroom's got shit all over it. But yeah, and then true crime has always been a huge fascination of mine. I love learning about the wars. Like, World War II is like something I really focus hard on. I don't know why. It's something that really drags me in. Serial killers and cults. And some of the cults that I learn about, it's more about the people that get so invested into it even after the cult's been broken. Like, I just had an interview, I want to say last month, with somebody from the LDS religion, the Church of Latter-day Saints. And it was a brother and sister team. One was out of the religion and the other one was still in. And he's like, I've torn off the veil and I see what's wrong, but I'm still in it. And it's like, why are you still here? And that stuff is so interesting to me.
I just had an interview on Wednesday with a woman who was in the LDS, a Mormon, and she referenced it as a cult.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we were talking, so I've seen the South Park episode. That's all you need to know, right? That's I'm not
it's
Mormon.
it's 100% true. It's 100% true, even though it's satire. It's 100% true.
So, but she's telling me, that John Smith, and maybe it was in the South Park, and it's been years since I've seen it, but John Smith was a Freemason. I'm sorry, Joseph Smith. Yeah, Joseph Smith was a Freemason, and also he was an occultist. So he took these two pieces of the religion, spun them together, then added some outer layers, and now you have Mormonism. So she was upset that she was just, lied to like her whole life. So she was coming up in it in the early 90s. The internet wasn't there. They're going through, I guess, your child to adulthood as you're about to get married. I don't know the technical term for that, but they go through this whole process and a whole ceremony. So she said while she was doing it, they would put on a live play, and they would have God, and they would have somebody dressed up as Satan, and they would actually praise the false God, is what the translation of them coming out. But people didn't have the internet, and they just tell you, hey, say these words in Latin or Greek, whatever it might have been. But it was not English words of praise the false God. So you don't know what you're saying. You're just saying, I was like, this whole religion from her and possibly from other people are just built around like worshiping the occult almost. So she felt she was lied to the whole time, but she broke free or quit, I guess, because broke free sounds a little strong. She quit, but she still interacts with people in her family who are Mormon, and she's free to do her own stuff. She just belongs to another church or modern day Christianity or whatever. And I guess it's a cult that way. When I first started talking to her, I was like, oh, we're gonna like some Scientology, and like you really have to cut off everybody that like if you're you're gonna be excommunicated. But it really also just kind of sounded like, hey, maybe there's some really nice people that don't know the background of everything, and if you find out, maybe you're kind of pissed off that you were misled. But
so a lot of Mormons don't know. Joseph Smith was
I'm gonna jump in. I think John Smith is Pocahontas, so I apologize to Pocahontas. Your husband was a good guy. Joseph Smith, terrible.
So Joseph Smith, in the beginning, he was a storyteller. He was a liar. He would go to, it was 1812, there's nothing to do. And you have this boy knock on your front door and says, I have this magical seeing stone and I can find buried treasure. Well, eventually that caught up to him and he was arrested for it. So he was out, and then he was like, well, what do I do now? So he's got this magical quote unquote seeing stone, and he finds God in the forest, and he finds this angel, and this angel tells him like, hey, Moroni is like, hey, you need to take this seeing stone and read these golden tablets, magically the same seeing stone that he had to find all this buried treasure. And a lot of Mormons don't know like the horrible things that this man did. He married like a child when he was in his like 40s. Like she was like, I think 13 or something like that, 13 or 12. Brigham Young, another strong leader. I mean, they've got a college named after this guy, Brigham Young University, who also married children and was very into polygamy. And, from what I've heard, it's the older members that will excommunicate you if you pull away. It's the generation, not our parents, but your grandparents. Those are the people that are going to be like, oh, okay, so you no longer believe in our teachings. You need to leave and you need to never come back. And Scientology is cut from the same cloth, man. It's cut from the same cloth. You see the problems with it. You see Xenu being a huge issue, and all the shit that you've been, paying into and practicing forever is a lie. Just Scientology is more brutal with it. And it's a travesty for what they do to families. It's horrendous. And I'm happy. The word that you used was they got, what was it? Set free, not set free. What was it? It was,
I think they said they broke away, but they weren't like
broke away.
And, so.
Yeah. So for Mormonism, that I feel like breaking away is more harsh for that religion, but there are sects of that religion that you could say that, like the FLDS that, with Warren Jeffs, who is still around. He's in prison right now, who was the leader of the fundamentalists of the Mormons. And he was doing polygamy out the wazoo. I mean, he had like 73 wives. Some of his wives were 12, 13. And this happened in the fucking 90s, early 2000s. So this shit's still going on. So break free would definitely be for that, and Scientology. I think leaving the Mormon religion would be an accurate way to describe that. So yeah, it's so fun to learn about this stuff. I know it's people's lives, but it's so interesting to like, what got you into this, and why the fuck did you stay even after you were like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, that's why I kind of get Scientology. Though, if you're going to break away, you're like, I don't know anybody else but these people. Like, what am I going to do? So like that makes it very hard. It's like the abusive relationship. Like, well, no one else loves me but this guy who's beating or girl, beating the shit out of me. Like, and I have nowhere to go. Like, my parents aren't here. I don't have any friends. My friends are all controlled. So I kind of get the Scientology and the older Mormons, and that's what she said. She's like, like I wasn't one of 10 wives or even two. She was a single wife, and some of the marriages didn't work out, and she wasn't 14. So like all these things like were not happening to her. But if it was like, that's just, it's fucking weird, man. It's weird, like how the original people get involved. I'm trying to think the Waco guy, David Koresh, right? And it's like, okay, hey, husband and wife, come join my religion, and you guys aren't married. She's just with me. And you're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Just take her. Like, that's so fucking weird. Like, where did that come from? Hey, God told me she's not your wife anymore. You're like, oh, hey, thanks a lot.
That's what it is. That's what it is, man. It's just the prophecy, and you get these people so brainwashed into this situation, and they've been following you for X amount of years. I mean, you have to understand David Koresh, whenever he led the Branch Davidians, he was a part of that church since I think he was like 16 or something, and he was being molested by the current leader of that church. And she basically said David is going to be the next prophet, and it filled his ego, and he was manipulating her as much as she was manipulating him. And then there was a power struggle between her son and David ended up getting her son arrested. And then he just took over, and like, he has this army of people that have followed him, not only into battle against the evils of tyranny and Satan and all this stuff. And they feel like holy warriors, and they have pride, and it just slowly becomes corrupted. And sometimes it's not even slow. It's like a drop of or a flip of a switch, and then these people are just in this situation, and they're being manipulated and used, and they've got nowhere to go, but this is all they've known their entire lives. So it's just like, what's wrong, what's right, because this is what you've been taught. So it's really fucked up. And the Branch Davidians, man, when that fell apart, even the Branch Davidians that survived that after the siege, the people that were arrested after the fire, that the ones that actually got out, they went to court over it. They went to court, and even then they couldn't even badmouth David Koresh after everything that happened, after all the molestation, after all the abuse, after all the fighting, after all the death. Like, they still preached his fucking name, and it's crazy. So in the beginning of this, you were talking about cryptids. I have a question for you. In a fist fight, who would win, Mothman or Sasquatch, Bigfoot? Who are we doing?
Well, so you have to get the higher ground. So if Mothman can fly, then you're probably going to be bigger than Bigfoot. But if Bigfoot is interdimensional, now you're like, I'm trying to think, like that Street Fighter game, or whatever it is, you zoom in and out, and you never know which way you're fighting. So it would be tough. It's like Alex Jones was choked down on a show the other day. I saw this whole thing on Twitter. They were showing that he had like an MMA guy on. He's like apparently always asking Eddie Bravo, but it was like intentional. But he like asked for it, and the guy like put him to sleep on there. He started snoring on the microphone, and it was like pretty funny. As let's clarify, as terrible as Alex Jones is, let's clarify on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was really hysterical watching this giant man just get choked out instantly. So I think if Mothman's going to have the higher ground, but if Bigfoot can get in that chokehold, it's going to be tough. But probably like 10-9 Mothman.
You think Mothman? I think Bigfoot, because I feel like with birds, they have hollow bones. They've got to have those light bones so that they can get off the ground. I just feel like with Mothman, he's going to have those brittle bones, and I feel like it's going to take just one direct punch from a fucking gorilla to put that thing down. See, but I
think maybe Bigfoot's so big, he's like the gentle giant. He never wants to hurt anybody. He just wants to. All he wants is a good hug. That's it, and he'll be good to go.
Maybe he'd be like trying to swat him away as he's like, Mothman's like fucking him up.
Yeah, that'd be tough, man.
What's your favorite cryptid?
So I live near the Pine Barrens. So we have the Jersey Devil over here. Apparently, there's some Bigfoot sightings. I've never seen either. I moved to this house about 3 years ago. So before that, I'm on the cusp of the Pine Barrens right here. Probably walk there in 5 minutes and be official piney. So before that, I was probably 10 miles from here. And I'm outside playing basketball with my son one night, and it's late summer. It's a sun setting, like 7 o'clock or whatever. Probably fall. It's 7 o'clock. It's dark, and something lands on top of my roof above my garage. And I'm looking up, I'm like, what the fuck? It's like a small child up there. It's like a 3 foot fucking thing, and it takes off, and its wings are a decent size, and you can just tell that its body's a lot heavier. So, but like we have streetlights, we have things like this. So, like, what was it? It was probably a turkey vulture, or was probably like a barn owl or something that was big that landed on there. I can easily see how colonial times when like you have an oil lamp and that's it, and it barely lights up 5 feet in front of you, and you're in the woods and you hear these things, and like this giant fucking turkey vulture that's 3 feet tall like takes off. I could see how you could probably get into, that it's something that it's not. I'm just really fascinated with all of them, and then that they're local, that there's like each state and each region of the country has their own thing that's going on. But I'm gonna have to go with the OG Bigfoot probably. I feel like he's been around the longest.
For sure. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying when it came to colonial times and not having the light visibility. Because you see like a harpy, what is it, a harpy eagle or something? It's a harpy owl or a harpy eagle, and they're like, I want to say they're like 4 feet tall. They're crazy looking. They're one of the biggest fucking birds we have. Well, I mean, besides like an ostrich or something, a raptor type bird. But they're massive and they're scary looking, and I could definitely see how that could be like turned into a cryptid. So I totally
especially if
get that.
they like migrate new to the area and you're not used to it.
Like, they just land. Like, they just land one time, and it creates a national story, and it's forever told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my area, we get us a Pine Barren to New Jersey, and there's apparently a ton of Bigfoot sightings. And I was going on this little streak, some earlier podcast. I'm like, there's just like this main road that cuts up through the middle of the Pine Barrens. I'm like, I just don't think it could happen. And I was driving around a little more, and it is a little more remote in some areas, than I give it credit for. But I drove up to the Finger Lakes a couple of weeks ago. My wife and I like to go up there, and there's whole wineries and hiking and all this like awesome stuff. And you start getting in the northeastern Pennsylvania and New York, that middle of fucking nowhere, New York, not like New York City. Dude, it is just straight mountains and people's homes back up to them. And you can't really I can't imagine a hiker really being able to climb or scale these things. So if you start seeing beast shadows coming out, like, that's gotta be fucking crazy. And I could see how something like that could exist in that area.
How do you feel about all the new alien news that's been coming out? I mean, obviously we have was it Puerto Rico that just had their fake bullshit that just happened, but we had the US Congress meeting where we had 3 very top officials going out and saying, we've seen this, we don't know what it is, we're calling it a UAP, we're very concerned, we want the world to know. And that was kind of the end of it. And then we had this Puerto Rican thing with the mummified, 3-fingered, disfigured bodies of,
Yeah, I think that was the Mexico hearing, and those mummies were from
Mexico.
Peru. They brought them up from Peru, yeah.
Yeah, and they have been tested before, and the first x-rays they did, the bones were all like fucked up. I don't know if they've done an x-ray on him this time since he's brought him back, but the first time they brought him, they were like, if this thing was real, it would not be able to walk at all. Like, there's no human possible way.
Yeah, I remember them coming out during Peru, and then Gaia does different programs and everything. And I remember them getting behind this coming out, and people were like, this is like some baby bones and chicken bones, and you can see it sewn together. So it kind of seemed like bullshit. But hey, Gaia, if you ever want to sponsor me, I will edit this part out. So just hit me up. So then this Mexico one, they're doing it, and they just pulled this like piece of plastic off the top, and it looks like like a little thank you note greeting card holder thing that has like a little puff pillow in there, though, but just like a shitty little piece of plastic. You would think they'd be in a solid capsule and some formaldehyde or something that they put these things
actually
in.
Like taken care of.
Yeah, and this guy with no gloves on just takes them off. He's got like a polo on. Like, are you a scientist or like a gym teacher? Like, what's happening here? He just takes them off, and they're in hearings, and you just see these like little dusty old things. I don't know. And it seemed like bullshit. And I'm trying to think of the one UK paper. It's The Sun, and it's someone else. And it's kind of like half news and like half Weekly World News, where you're not sure like which story is true. But then next to it, they'll report something that like oh, Biden actually said this quote for quote. And then the next story, it's like, oh, we just saw Mothman. And you're like, wait, what the fuck's happening here? So
It
they
kind
had
of reminds
the
me
Daily
of like
Beast.
it kind
That's
of
what
reminds me of the Inquisitor. We have the Inquisitor out here. I think Esquire and the Inquisitor or something like that. It starts with an E, and it's just like you see the front of it, and it's like Donald Trump has 17 toes on his right foot, and it's like, oh, that looks like fucking lead. Like that looks reasonable. All right, I'm gonna get this, but yeah, I've always wondered how those companies like get away with doing stuff like that without getting
So
sued.
the Daily Beast, they're half bullshit. But then I just saw somebody screenshot a review or a story in there, and apparently the scientist was like, "Hey, we looked at these bodies, and there are no seams on them. So maybe they were bullshit other ones, or somebody created something that they saw, but they look just too small. Like I'm not sure what I want out of my aliens, but that's not. If they're coming here to be our galactic overlords, like unsubscribe. Like I'm fucking done.
Oh, with the little minis, but
yeah, the little minis, like not happening, man.
What would your preferred alien be?
How would you prefer to be taken over by an intergalactic?
I mean, if they're big, like 6 foot Amazon blue beauties with big old titties, I'm down. Like, sign me up. I'll slave to that. I'll subscribe. Like, sign me up. But like, what is your preferred alien? Like, if you're gonna have an overlord, what is he gonna look like? He, she, my bad.
He, she, yeah. They could be Zia. Who knows what their pronouns are? How dare you even subscribe pronouns to them?
Man, I'm trying, all right? It's 2023.
Over, dude.
It's fucking hard, all right?
Yeah. So, you have, you're supposed to be the Greys. There's the Nordics who are the tall blondes.
The reptilians.
But, I'm going to say, sign me up for good old lizard people. Give me Pindar in the center of the earth. I'm ready for him to come up and just say, hey, guys, I've been here the whole time. I control the whatever they are, the committee of 300 and the top 13 families. It's got to be something. Is it the Greys? They kind of seem like they're like little robots. They're organic avatars.
I feel like if I saw a Grey, I don't even know if I would believe it. I feel like I've become so desensitized to little gray men that I would see it and just be like, kid in a costume or something else. And then
it's going to have to be the Sigourney Weaver aliens of like ripping someone's face off. And then you're like, holy shit, man. Like fucking aliens.
A xenomorph. Anything else, you're
like, oh, okay. Is that like a xenomorph? Yeah.
If I had a xenomorph come down to Earth, for one, we would be absolutely fucked. But I think that would be the scariest way I would see an alien. If I saw a xenomorph, I feel like I would probably take myself out before it took me out. It's one of those situations. If it was a reptilian, I'd be like, what do you need? What do you want? I'm your guy. What's up?
So I think that the alien propaganda, the disclosure that's being controlled, you can see it's gone so bad that today they came out and like, hey, we arrested Tupac's murderer. We've arrested the guy who murdered Tupac. So that was 17 years ago. They raided this guy's house in Vegas. Keefe D. I think he worked for LAPD or Las Vegas. I don't know. He worked for somebody as police, and then he would do bodyguard stuff, but then he was also working with one of the gangs. So his cousin, somebody in his family, I'm screwing this whole story up. Sorry,
it's all good.
Look it up. Somebody in his family is the one who got stomped by Tupac and Suge Knight in the casino, Orlando.
Before they scattered out.
Right before, yeah. So that's the fight you see in the casino, and that guy who got stomped a little bit was in the car with Keefe D, and they said that they were driving down the highway going to this club, and on the other way, you saw Tupac hanging out at the top of the sunroof, like yelling to a car of girls behind him. They knew he was like, oh, Tupac. And he was up like being a celebrity. And these guys drove by and saw him. Fuck, man, that's Tupac. Turn around. Let's go. And they turned around, hit a red light, got next to him. And the guy in the back seat is the one who shot him. So Keefe D's sitting shotgun. He's in the front passenger seat. And he did an interview in I was watching a fucking video today. He did an interview in 2018 that described all of this is happening. And the guy's like, well, so who shot him? Who was in the back? Was it Orlando, the guy who got stomped, or was it this other guy? And he's like, hey, man, rules of the street, I'm not snitching. It was just the guy in the back seat. Well, rules of the street don't give you like 50-50. I'm pretty sure. I haven't been up in the street rules in a minute. But it seems like, it's a little less than 50-50. But so this guy admitted it. The police raided his house, and then they just arrested him today. So this is how good alien disclosure is going, that they had to be like, roll out the Tupac murderer, get him.
We finally figured it out, even though we've known the entire time. We just busted him. And that's like, I just feel like once I don't know if it's a cover up. I don't know if we're trying to cover this up. I don't like, we had the government come out, or we had officials from, the government come out and say like, look, this is real. And then like, we've got the election going on, we've got aliens going on, we've got apparently Tupac's murder being solved. I mean, it's just, why can't we focus on it? Why can't we have answers? Why do you think the government's hiding it from us? Why do you think why don't you think they were able to bring out photos? I mean, these were people that were allowed to come out and speak on behalf of the government to let the people know, like, hey, there's something. But like, why don't you think the government like went full disclosure? Because they had a lot of sidebars with that Congress meeting. They were like, I can't show you right now because we're public, but in private, I can show you pictures, I can show you proof, we can go over the facts, but we can't do this right now.
I find that to be the craziest thing. Like David Grush, he seems like he's a nice guy. Like, and people were saying how great he was. Then they tried to do a smear campaign on him. But he seemed like a good dude as he was testifying. So he said that he got clearance to say everything that he said. Some of the shit that he said was fucking crazy. That like it should be national headlines and like shut down the economy as people grasp with all this. And no one batted an eye. Another thing is at one point we had a drone predator flying over like the Black Sea right there, and a Russian fighter jet came and like skimmed over in front of it and shot fuel at it and fucked it all up. And we were so upset about it. But they released a 4K video of this Russian fighter jet coming out. It was the craziest fucking like crystal clear Top Gun like fucking video. Like so much adrenaline. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like that's crazy. Like, this jet's a fucking monster of a thing. It zooms up and like you're crystal clear image. Like, I was waiting for Top Gun to, Maverick to flip the bird. We're doing international.
You're ready for Highway to the and just playing in the background as you're seeing this shit.
So a beautiful picture, just crystal clear, 4K, beautiful. And allegedly there are pictures of UFOs and 4K and all this stuff. We get none of that shit. They show the Kimball in FLIR. They show all this other stuff, the Tic Tac, right? The in FLIR, the Nimitz incident. We shoot a bunch of shit down after the Chinese spy balloon. Like, oh, we don't have videos. Oh, we shot down a Hobby Lobby thing. It took $750,000 in missiles to shoot down a $200 Hobby Lobby. Like, that's fucking bullshit, man. Release the video. I think what happened is they got put in a corner. The government is just the whole time deny. I think the internet and everybody picking stuff up in real time. Like, one, I don't think we're supposed to like have this much information like bombarding us all the time. Like, I know shit that's happening in Japan that like I would never fucking know 30 years ago. And like sometimes it crosses my mind, like, oh, these poor Japanese, like, about some random fucking thing. Like, I shouldn't fucking know that. I should know about like my community and my family and like my state, I guess. And then like a little bigger about my country. I know about all these other fucking countries. And so you see all these little incidents, James Fox releases his video, his documentary on Amazon, and people know all this fucking shit happening in Brazil. They know all these sightings in France and in China, all this stuff. And I think the government just got themselves jammed up. U.S. government got themselves jammed up. And they're like, fuck, man, we got to tell these people something. We've been lying for so long, but like just give them a crumb, but we're going to try to control it. And now you're seeing the struggle of like, hey, trust us. We're the government. We're telling you the truth. For the entire time, like the UFO community has been like, hey, we have all this information. We have these pictures, these stories, like, and you're never telling us the truth. And for them wanting people to come up and be like, oh yeah, please trust us. Please trust us. I think it's just a control for the narrative. And at this point, I don't even know what the narrative is. Is it fucking aliens from Mars, or is it our own people, or is it interdimensional?
How can we trust the government whenever we have one of the only surviving members of the NASA crew that went up to the moon straight up say we never went to the moon in 1969? Like, Buzz Aldrin is on record multiple fucking times telling people we never went to the moon. We never went to the moon in 1969. We never went to the moon. And that is that is the flag we planted. That is the crowning achievement of America. We beat the Ruskies to the moon. We beat them to the space race. We shut down the Cold War. We're the best, number one, America all the time. And it's just like, it's one of those things where it's just like, I can't believe anything the government has ever said. I mean, look at COVID. I hate to bring up vaccines. But somebody made a post the other day on Facebook, and it like honestly kind of made me, I don't know how I feel. It's just like, I never got the vaccine. I got COVID just like you did, even though you got the shot. You still got COVID. I did. I got COVID, even though I had the shot. I got both vaccines, and I'm not dissing vaccines at all. I'm a pro-vaxxer. I believe that we need to immunize, but like, what the fuck was that? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand what I did. Like, honestly, I see all these people and they're like, I'm fine. I like, when COVID hit, it was like, this is going to be the end of of America. Everybody's going to fucking die. You're seeing death after death after death after death, and all these people fucking dying in the streets. Everybody shut down. The country itself, the whole world just stopped for an entire year. And it was legitimately scary. I mean, it was like one of those times, like I didn't have a job for the first time in like fucking like 10 years. Like, I didn't know what to do with myself. Like, yeah, I have my kids, but it's me, my wife, my 2 kids locked inside of a house for 6 months at a period. And, you know, we're waiting for this vaccine. It finally comes out, and like COVID's no longer a thing anymore, but all these people still haven't vaxxed. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with it. It's just like one of those things where it's just like, I can't trust my government anymore. And then that is like the biggest fear of being an American is I can't trust the people that lead this country. I mean, I don't want to bring politics into this, but Joe Biden himself, I am a Democrat. A libertarian, I guess. I'll put myself in the libertarian because I think this year I'm voting Republican, which is really hard for me to do. But I think Joe Biden himself, I mean, look, he can't even, I've seen so many press conferences where like in the middle of it, he's like, all right, well, I'm just going to go to bed. And it's like, you're addressing NATO right now. What are you fucking talking about, dude? What are you talking? My faith in our country and our leadership is absolutely gone. I think the government will do anything in their power to either diverge or to dilute what we know as a country to keep us together. I'm surprised when we had those conferences, when we had those meetings with Congress about the aliens, I'm surprised there weren't riots in the fucking street. I'm surprised there weren't people more freaked out. It became a fucking internet joke. It became a fucking internet joke. And that is the most upsetting thing about all of that happening.
So all 3 instances that you brought up the vaccine, you brought up the president or government officials, and then you brought up the UFO hearings. What do all 3 of those have in common on why people are not more upset?
Social media, I guess.
The media.
You think it's media, period?
I think it's media, period. That CNN had their death counter. Fox News still would report like death counter-esque, but also then like, hey, maybe it's kind of fake, but we don't know. But also, hey, watch all these people that died. The president comes on, and it's also just split. Like everything, like you have to have one side, and you can't be kind of in the middle or like, hey, I kind of think this, but I also think this, because you're a real fucking person.
Yeah.
I think multiple things on one issue. I think multiple things.
And when I meet people, when I meet somebody that is so one-sided, it's like, do you use your brain cell? Like whenever I see a politician that goes on and they're like, even though Trump is a corrupt piece of shit and he's done all these terrible, horrible fucking things and is culpable in the deaths of police officers during the January 6th riots and his lack of response. I'll even just blanket statement that and just say the government's lack of response when it came to COVID.
I'm gonna jump in real quick. So what I was hoping with Trump, and I understand people are feel whatever way you want about him. I don't really give a shit on whatever it is. One thing that I did like of him when he came in is that he treated the United States that it was a business. He's like, hey, man, this is the business of the United States. How do we make it stronger? How do we have it more money? How do we make it more secure? And then everything else that you mentioned that went with it, like, hey, I hear you. That's great. I was hoping the Democrats would then sit there and go, let's roll out Warren Buffett. Let's roll out somebody who has a business mind that can then, at least we don't have mean tweets of like, you know what? You're going to bomb us. My bomb's bigger than yours. Like, dude, nobody fucking needs to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and fucking see that on their Twitter feed.
No, dude, like, I did not. I was watching like World War III on fucking Twitter, dude, between fucking Kim Jong-un and Putin and Trump, between the 3 of them. It drove me absolutely insane. I don't want to know what's going on in my president's brain. I don't.
Right. But it's also crazy that his dick measuring contest turned out to be like the safest thing for us. Like, you're like, what the fuck is happening? But then Joe Biden's just like, oh, I'm not going to say anything. Like, well, Russia's fucking horrible, so let's take them over and dump billions of dollars into here. And then anything else that happens, he's like, well, I'm not going to, hey, we're all friends. The whole world's friends. But this other guy was just like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I'll bomb everybody. And you're like, dude, please do not say that. Allegedly, he called Putin and said that he would drop a nuke on Moscow. And he was like, if you go into Ukraine, allegedly, this, some media outlets have reported that he said, if you cross into Ukraine, I will drop a nuke on Moscow. And Putin was just like, what the fuck? Is this guy serious or not? Like, I don't know. And everyone, all his handlers, Trump's handlers and people, inner circle, were like, we don't fucking know. Like, he rips up, confidential documents that are supposed to be stored away because he's like, that's how he does business. And in his world, he would have a stack of papers and he was done. He ripped them up and threw them off to the fucking side. And like, dude, you cannot do that in the government. We have to control these. Like, fuck this. Like, rip it up. It's gone. But it's crazy. And this isn't like, oh, let's bring him back. Like, please, Democrats, roll out somebody business minded that's going to say, like, fix the national debt, get people more money in their pocket, get like, let's ease inflation. Like, what are your plans for that? And all of that is fucking the media to lie to you and like, oh, the only reason we're here is because of Republicans.
Yeah.
Like, and it's been years of that, man. Like, what are you going to do when you get reelected and we're at years 7 and 8 of this shit?
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, but I totally drew a blank there, but I totally remember where I was going with that. It's the division of America. And that is the saddest fucking thing I have seen since I want to say 2016. It's just the great division in America and how, I mean, like my father-in-law is a hardcore Republican, and like I'll go over there and he's like, oh, did you hear about this? And it's like, no, but did you hear about this? And it's like, no. And then we have a talk about it and he's like, well, that can't be true. And I'm like, that can't be true. And then we have this giant fight. Now families are divided, and that fucking happens so much with all this shit. And I think the conspiracy behind all this stuff is the fact that the government is trying to keep us divided because we can't be strong as a divided nation. We can't. We have a two-party democratic system, and our two-party democratic system is failing in front of us, and they are doing everything they can to keep us divided so we're not as strong. And as, we put these people here. We put these people here. We put these people in power, and what do? They hide the information. They lie to us. They keep us down, and they do everything in their power to progress in life as we are pushed down. And it is a very sad system that we live in.
I forget what the Twitter account was, but one was the Nancy Pelosi investment tracking. And they would show like what she invested in for like the last quarter or whatever and how much it went up. And then also the bills that happened. And they banned that. Maybe Elon let it back on. But then towards the end of the year, they just did like the top 25 congressmen. And it was Democrats and Republicans. Mm-hmm. And it was like, hey, S&P averages this amount. And if you're like 10% above, you're the best trader on Wall Street. And all of these people were like 60% above. So you're 60% above the best trader on Wall Street? Like, crazy. How the fuck did that happen?
It's like you have inside knowledge. I believe that's called inside trading.
Yeah. Martha Stewart, the fucking lady, goes to a party and she's cooking dishes for everybody. And they're like, hey, you have to go to jail for 18 months because you made a bet on. Everyone else in that fucking room did too. She was just the least juiced one out of all of it. And they're like, hey, someone else take the rap. Sucks to be you.
Yeah, poor fucking Martha.
It's sad, man. Dianne Feinstein passes away today.
I don't care about her politics.
Don't care about her politics at all. Zero. That poor woman was 90 years old. For the last year, it was obvious that she needed to be somewhere with people who cared about her and, getting the love and comfort that she needed. They drug her
out of her state and back into the Capitol.
Yeah, to make her vote. And the person was like, stand up and say yes. And like, she was fucking out of it. That poor woman. I don't care what she did her entire life in politics. Do not care. I feel bad that this was an old woman who needed care and love and compassion, and it was not there for her.
Well, that goes back to, we need term limits. We need term limits, and we need comprehension tests for these politicians. We need term limits for our politicians. We need some way to be able to do a comprehension test for these people, because I don't think Joe Biden's there. Mitch McConnell, he needs to get the fuck out.
That guy froze 3 times, man. Like,
every time I see him freeze, it fucking freaks me out, because I think the people of Kentucky, this is the man that is making your laws. This man leads you. And I heard the rally that he did where, the fucking entire assembly yelled, step down, or, get out of here, or whatever. And it's, I don't understand how we don't have term limits. I don't understand after everything we've seen and, you know, everything that's been going on, how that's not like top priority. Like, yo, we've got some really old people in here and they don't speak for the generation that they lead.
It's a shame that, you know, people question the integrity of the elections. I'm not going to get into that. I think that we have, like, I can do my banking on my phone. Like, that's pretty secure. I haven't gotten hacked on it. I say this now and people are like, oh, we're going to fucking hack it.
And if you do, you know immediately.
But I know immediately.
Fucking
Why
immediately.
can't we vote like bill by bill? Why can't they vote like line by line, bill by bill? But instead, like, oh, this government shutdown. If you don't pass this $6 trillion bill and all this money is going to, you know, foreign overseas, and then this money is going to go help a park in my district. Hey, maybe your park does need help. I don't really give a shit about your park. Let's vote on this line by line. Let's get the government back to square. Let's trim the fat a little bit, but nobody cares. It's both sides just fucking, they jam, but intentionally. It's a fucking show, man.
Oh, I mean, you talk to anybody younger than 25 and you ask them what's going on in the world and they don't have any kind of fucking clue. They have no idea. They're in their own world.
Why should they care? They can never afford a fucking home in a decent place.
I am 30 years old. I make $35 an hour. I make good money for where I live. I'm a welder. I've got free healthcare. I work in the best factory in my hometown, or not my hometown, in this town that I live in currently. I work 10 to 12 hours almost every day, and I cannot afford a fucking house. The houses out here, and I live in fucking Iowa. I don't live in Miami. I don't live in California. I don't live in Washington, D.C., and I don't live in New York City. I live in bumfuck Midwest Iowa. And houses out here for a decent 3-bedroom house go for $300,000. My parents' house that we lived in back home in Illinois, when they bought it, it was $89,000. And that was a 5-bedroom house.
It's crazy, man.
The fuck is going on?
Sad. And then the sad part is, you know, they had Robert F. Kennedy. I've been really intrigued by his interviews that he comes on. This guy just spits facts the whole time. He seems likable as you talk to him. He's not this divisive person, but he talks about geopolitics off the top of his head, like quote, this happened in this year, this happened in this year, this happened because of this. You're like, holy shit, man. Like, this is like a Joe Rogan episode on steroids, but like completely fact checked. And he's going on. And apparently one of the things he wants to lead with is a 3% interest rate, homeowners interest rate for the nation is what he wants to do. But he's not going to get the nod on the Democrat. He's going to have to go for a third party and it's going to split, you know, whatever party's going to win, you know, but it's not going to do anything for him. But if somebody who's talking sense, who sees regular people struggling, like, it is fucking bullshit that it's 2023 in the United States of America where people are making pretty good money for the most part. I get everyone's struggling. I get that. But for the most part, there's pretty good money to be made, and you cannot afford a fucking house.
I make, between me and my wife, we make, I hate to throw money out there, but we make over 120,000 between my wife and I. Like, she is an HR representative of a trucking company. Like, she hires and fires people all fucking day. I went to trade school. Like, I've got a basically quote unquote a certificate basically in welding, and you know I did that for so fucking long, and we make the money we make because we fucking worked for it. And for $120,000 a year, that's even I feel like I'm even shortchanging myself here, and we still can't afford a fucking house. I'm paying fucking $1,450 for a fucking a 3-bedroom for rent, and it's nuts because anytime I talk to somebody that owns a house, they're like, yeah, so that's more than my mortgage. And it's like, oh, so you can buy a house, but I have to rent, and my credit's decent, like my wife's credit's decent, but we still have to pay that $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 down payment to fucking even enter the game. And it's a killer because I've got 2 fucking kids. And if one of them breaks their arm, I have to go and fucking take care of that. I can't afford that kind of shit. I can't afford groceries, rent, my power bill, my internet bill, my car payment, the shit I need to fucking live. It is so fucking hard. Why? Why does it have to be this hard? What happened to the American dream that we used to have? What happened to that? Where did it go? And why is it such a capitalist country that we can't progress as a class, as a middle class, lower class, higher class. We can't progress at all. We are stuck in our denominations unless we strike gold with a business or a fucking cryptocurrency or a fucking just bullshit scam or whatever. Like, we have to scam our way to the top, and it's such a cutthroat environment, and I fucking hate it. I fucking hate it. I despise,
I hear you, man. And this is why
the country we live in.
It's tough because the politicians do not give a shit.
No.
There's this guy who, everyone's like, oh, he's just a right-wing song or whatever. But Oliver Anthony came out with this Rich Men North of Richmond
fucking
song.
Love that song.
That's a fucking good song, man. And it hits on what these times are now. Like, it is fucking hard out there for people. Like, my grocery bill used to be a lot less, and it is close to fucking double. And I'm not getting half of the food that I used to. Well, half's probably an extreme. But I'm getting 75% of the food I used to for double the money. And it's like, this is fucking crazy.
If I have a bagger at the end of my line, whenever I go to the grocery store and he fills up 2 bags, I know instantly I'm paying $100 right there. $50 a bag of food, regardless of what it is. I know by the time I get out of that bitch, I am paying $400, $450 for a family of 4. If not more. If not more. That's my car payment. That's my power bill. That's my internet bill wrapped into right there. It's fucking insane.
And the worst part is, if you made less, you would get a lot more free from the government. You're like, hey, man, I'm trying to do this right. I'm trying to fucking work and show my kids what, like, hard work and good living is. And all you're doing is getting fucking screwed. And you think that either the Republicans or the Democrats would come out and be like, hey, this is the way to go. But instead, it's like, oh, hey, let's just stop, making ourselves energy independent. Let's go for, hey, windmills might be great. I don't know. That's also not my main concern today. Why can't we have multiple pronged attacks and say, hey, this is a 1-year plan. This is a 10. This is a 35-year plan. Everything is fuck you people. This is the 15-year plan, and none of it involves fixing anything right now.
You'll see it in 15 years. And by the time you get this in 15 years, you might be like, oh, thank you. But right now it's go fuck yourself. Yeah.
And this goes back to the media they spin everything. Like, oh, did you know that the average family makes $120,000? And like in 1980, they only made $10,000. Like, okay, well, inflation wasn't through the roof. In 1980, it might've been, so that's a bad example. But in 1990, inflation wasn't through the roof. Interest rates weren't 7.5%. You didn't have all this shit that you have to fucking pay for. Like, it's not even like cell phones are a luxury or the internet's a luxury. Like, you need this shit to survive. Like, we're doing this for fun right now, and this is nice, a perk of it. But otherwise, like, for the most part, you might work from home. Your company might make you work from home. You might have all this other bullshit. Your kids have to log in from school. You do all, like, you need this shit. It's not like, oh, look, I don't have all these extra luxuries that I'm so thankful that I have that I could just cut. Like, I fucking need all this shit.
I just pay for internet, man. I don't even pay for cable, because if I pay for cable, I'd be fucking even more in trouble. Like, like the luxury items that we have today seem so, I don't want to say unfeasible, because they are feasible, but it's just one of those things where it's just like, do I really sacrifice this kind of time? Like, when I think about my bills, when I think about the kind of money when I spend $60, I think about, okay, that was 3 hours of my work. That was 3 hours of my life that I just spent right here. And that's how I'm able to, that's the way I save my money, is I think about what kind of time I had to put into this in order to spend this. And now these luxury items that we have, it's unreasonable. It's unreasonable to pay for some of this stuff that we have, or that we want. And some of these things are just a basic fucking thing. I mean, it is fucking ridiculous how hard the struggle is for most Americans these days. And I think that's the biggest conspiracy that, I mean, everybody talks about, but nothing gets done about. And that's the fucking heartbreak of this country. Is you hear about this American dream, about this freedom, about, yeah, we're free, but so is like everybody fucking else. There are so many other countries that are also fucking free. We're not free. We're not number one in shit unless it's weapons and in deaths, gun violence. My hometown where I come from, I just looked up the statistic last night. You have a 1 in 19% chance of being a victim of a violent crime from where I come from. That's fucking
fucked up, man.
You line up 19 people, one of those people are going to die.
That's fucked up.
Fucked it is. That's how fucked America is. And if we can't fix just small town problems, how the fuck are we going to fix the country as a whole?
This is
onto you.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think this is part of the problem, though, and we're not going to get into the whole like let's break down all of America and everything. But it's this whole that like, hey, I don't have anything, so I'm not gonna snitch on anyone. Hey, no, snitches get stitches. But like, you know what? Like, if you're in a 1 in 19 environment of somebody getting assaulted, I would assume from those numbers, like that area is probably not that great. So like, you probably see things probably happening. I'm not saying to proactively call the cops, but when something does happen and they come around, everyone's like, well, I'm not saying shit. It didn't happen to me. I'm not saying shit.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, but like fix that a little bit. Like, you know, one cop does something bad. So what? 10% of the cops are bad? What do you want to say? 20% of the cops are bad? We're going to get rid of 80% of the cops that are good? Like this is just a fucking madness. But I feel like part of the plan, I think, you know, let's grand conspiracy here. Part of the plan is to get people so fucking dejected, to get people so bought out of the system. Like, fuck, it does nothing for me. Do I vote? Maybe, maybe not. I don't care. And they just give us bread and wine. And what is that? That's UFOs. That's let's everyone get excited about Elon Musk buying Twitter. Let's talk about
sprinkle some fun stuff in there.
Yep.
You're not going to pay attention to Congress and all the bills that are being passed. Let's sprinkle some fun in there so that like people are like, it's crazy, dude. But like at the same time,
or what did my party do for me? But it's not even for me. It's what did my party do that I'm going to celebrate? Oh, they passed this bill. But like, what does that bill say? Well, it's the Inflation Reduction Act. It has to reduce inflation, right? Actually, it didn't fucking do shit for inflation. They just named it that. And then the media was like, oh, Inflation Reduction Act. Inflation's going down. But people are too fucking dumb. Or this is what I enjoy. So I don't follow the CNN or the Fox. I like to follow independent journalists.
Yep.
And then also I like to see the haters of the other side go on there because they're going to rip apart immediately and be like, oh, what is this inflation reduction? And you see it ripped apart immediately. And then whenever I look for the other side to rip it apart. And I'm like, okay, well, does that hold water, or is are they just fucking bullshitting to get their side ripped up? But that's a good test for you to see. Don't watch the fucking news. Don't let them tell you shit. They're gonna fucking lie to you. Like, you saw what happened. Some of the stuff that Trump did was fucking horrible. Some of the stuff he did was pretty good. The news wouldn't tell you that if you watched the other side. You never heard one good thing he did from the other side.
You just watched the Republican debate that just happened not too long ago, and everybody was like, "Hey," I mean, like literally, Thursday night that they just had this.
Yeah, so last night.
Yeah,
well, Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah, I missed it.
Yeah, and they had.
Or did I miss it? Oh, probably not.
It wasn't anything crazy. It was literally a Trump Biden debate, like part 2. People were talking over each other. It was the debate process as a whole is flawed. You have 30 seconds to answer something critical about your stance and your point, and they just give you fluff ass answers. And it's not a way to vote for somebody. It's not a way to hear their actual opinions and how they feel about the certain topic. They sit there and say, you know why? I've got 30 seconds. So let me go ahead and tell you, I think that the topic that you talked about before is wrong because I wasn't asked that question and I want to put my 2 cents into that. But now let's focus on this. Now I only have 10 seconds to tell you how I feel. You should vote for me because this is what I did for my state. And it's like, what the fuck did you just say? Because I don't understand it. I don't understand.
But they want you not to understand. Like everybody should have to go into Rogan for 3 or 4 hours, and you're going to break down your natural things that you build up, and you're going to sit there and you're going to talk normal. That Vivek guy, I've heard he had some interesting pharmaceutical investments or companies or whatever. But when he does talk, I do find him interesting. I think he should get more time up there. But Chris Christie, dude, you're polling at whatever you're polling. You're not fucking polling at Trump numbers. How much millions are you taking from people? Where's the refund? Where's the refund on any of these people who don't make it? Where's the refund when Bernie Sanders was fucking screwed out of it by Hillary Clinton? And you didn't fight for that. Nope. You took a fucking house and she gave you a job.
Yep.
But that job wasn't even there because she fucking lost.
Yep.
Where is the refund?
Yep.
Zero.
But I mean, that was the flawed plan of Hillary Clinton. She worried about Bernie Sanders instead of Trump because Trump at that point in time was a laughing matter. Now it's not so much of a laughing matter. It's more of a, oh my God, what did he do? It's every fucking day I get on my fucking YouTube. And that's how I get most of my news is I'll listen to my independent reporters. I'll go through like 5 or 6 just to hear about one topic, just to get everybody's take on it and just to divide my own opinion from what they have to say. Now, what happened with Hillary and Bernie? Basically Hillary saw Bernie as the problem. He's talking about a socialist plan. She's like, if you drop your numbers, I can take out Trump. I can take out Trump, no problem. And that wasn't the case. And what happened, and that, unfortunate as it was, he did help from time to time. There were things that he did that I do support, and that's the only reason why it's hard for me to be like I am in the middle when it comes to my politics. It's so hard to be like I am a hardcore Democrat whenever a Democrat comes up for election in either the Senate or Congress or the presidency. I'm voting for him. Fuck whatever I believe, and that is the craziest shit I have ever fucking seen. There was an interview with Chris Christie where he was on Fox, and not even the night after he was on there, and they asked him, if Trump gets up there on the debate stage and it's him and Joe Biden, who are you voting for? He's like, oh, Trump, I have to follow my party. What the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? Can't you make your own decision and not just focus on your one party? Like, I get that it's a united front from both sides, but like, we're human beings and we're allowed to have these kind of decisions, and we choose not to. We choose fucking not to. We choose to follow this two-party system, and it's fucked. It's a flawed system.
Yeah, it's really tough. They go up there and they just say bullshit. They spout bullshit, whatever it might be. I don't know. Yeah, but let's move on from politics. So you mentioned World War II. You're a big fan. I guess. Hey, we won, so we can be big fans. That came off really wrong. I am
not a fan of what America did at all. I think so. Fun fact: what America did to Japan was absolutely horrendous. We basically went over there. So when we think about World War II, we think about the Great Generation. We think about this fucking war that we beat the Nazis. We beat this ultimate evil, and we conquered, and we did. We genuinely did. We fucking stopped more Jews and denominations from being slaughtered out the wazoo. We have 6 million, whether some people believe or some people don't believe. There's that huge debate, which makes me want to get sick, because there's so much evidence, but people choose to turn a blind eye. But we have no fucking reason.
Real quick for that debate, it always annoys me. They're like, hey, one's too many. Like, yeah, okay, I get one. Like, there has to be a number, though. Like, I get one. But that number, you might not like 6 million, but that number is way more into the uncomfortable number. But you're going to get so stuck on, like, well, that's actually only 2 million. Like, so 2 million's okay for you?
Yeah.
Like, I get that there's like a low number where you're like, okay, it's 10. Like, we should be really mad. Like, if 10 people in my neighborhood died, I'd be like, that's fucked up. What's happening in this neighborhood? But in the world, and I get we have to like put these things and it's like sickening. Do you think you have to think that way? The number's not 0, people. The number's not single digits. It's not 4 digits. It is a very high number. And if you're gonna bullshit with like you're quibbling over, it's way too high to be comfortable.
You can't look at photos from World War II and say that's Photoshop. Photoshop wasn't a fucking thing. You see dead bodies in piles and funeral piles being burned by the masses. You see fucking malnourished people basically dead in the streets, bullets in their fucking head, guns to children's heads right before those triggers get pulled. No, those photos aren't going to be fucking taken after that fucking kid's gotten shot. No, because that shows German strength right there. That is them getting rid of the fucking problem. And that gets rid of the culpability of them being fucking guilty for what they did. Now, if you sit there and say, I saw, if you're on the opposing side for the Holocaust deniers, as there are some.
I have to interject, fuck them.
Yeah, absolutely fuck them. Absolutely 100% fuck them. After all the years that I've done research, after everything I've seen and watched, it is anybody that has to say that what happened from 1939 to 1945 was just bullshit. I want to stab them in the throat, because it is a travesty to just absolutely ignore the pain and the suffering of those people.
Hopefully they're the 1 in 19 in your hometown. But
oh fuck, dude, we should just gather them up like a farm, and we should just like put them there and just like get everybody else, and whoever makes it out, or just leave everybody in there and just fucking throw them to the wolves and just see how far they go. But it's just
let them figure it out.
Yeah. So they have all these photos. A lot of the time, there was a photo that went to Dachau and was hired to take photos of all this shit, but he didn't show any murders. So he wasn't culpable to the murders of the Jews when it came to the Holocaust. Now, my big thing is what happened after that. After we defeated this great evil, after we defeated Adolf Hitler, Russia came in, America came in, we all teamed up, NATO, go allies. You know, we fucking beat the Germans to death. Italy surrendered. Mussolini was kicked out, even though he was ready to fucking quit, and Hitler was too high off his fucking ass to even accept it. What happened in Japan was the travesty. Basically, what happened in Japan was we came to Japan after we've been kicking their teeth in for a couple of years. And we said, all right, it's time to surrender. Time to surrender. But we want you to get rid of your emperor. We want to get rid of your government. We want to get rid of all the laws you live by. We want you to get rid of your military. We want to be able to be here, and we want to make propaganda through your films and all this fucking bullshit. If you watch Godzilla, the original Godzilla, that was propaganda from Japan to America. Godzilla himself is a fucking image of what America did to Japan. Japan disagreed with the full-out surrender from America. If we would have just tried a little bit harder, but we didn't want to. We had this new fucking fancy bomb that we really wanted to try. So we sat there and we had this bullshit meeting with them and said, hey, surrender everything. And if you don't, it's on you.
You know what they're going to say. I mean, so like you're going in there and like, what is the most that we can say that they're going to say no to? Like add, hey, everybody, like, no whipped cream. All right, add that on there. Never have whipped cream ever again. Like, that's fucking bullshit.
That's 100% true. And then whenever we think about Japan, we think about these never giving up, surrendering people that have so much pride that they would rather kill themselves. The entire country did not feel that way. Like, yes, they believed in an emperor. Yes, they had their rights. Yes, they had their rule. Yes, they had their own opinions about the fucking conquest that's going on in, you know, Europe and on their home turf at this point in time. But we didn't give a fuck. We didn't care. We went in there and we said, hey, we have this new fancy bomb. They don't know about it yet. No one knows about it yet. Germany was trying. Russia's now trying. They don't know about it yet. So we're going to make these bullshit rules that they have to give up, that they have to surrender, that they have to do and follow by, or we're going to just nuke them. But they don't know about this bomb. So we say, all right, if you don't want to sign it, guess what? That means total annihilation. Japan's like, fucking bring it. You're already on our turf. Like Mongolia tried a couple years ago. They got fucking smacked away. We have spirit. We have spirit and we have pride. So what did America do? We got in the Enola Gay and we dropped the Fat Man and Little Boy and showed the world. Not only did Japan suffer the first two nuclear bombs, but they also suffered under the hydrogen bomb, which was only a couple years after the nuclear bomb. We dropped the hydrogen bomb, which is 1,000 times stronger than a nuclear bomb. More radiation, more damage, more devastation. We dropped that a couple miles off of Japan's coast. It affected people. It hurt more people. Look into the Lucky Dragon 5 incident. That was the incident that they saw the blast. They were affected by the radiation and it fucking killed them. It killed the fish life. It infected fish with radiation and infected the locals of the islands that were nearby with radiation, and it killed the crew of the Lucky Dragon 5. Look into it. It is a great story. But America is not the shining star and the shining example into freedom that everybody has always been protesting about. And it's fucking sad. That's why I love World War II, because there are no heroes in that fight. Yes, we beat Germany. Yes, we fucking knocked the Nazis into, the Nuremberg trial. And yes, we hung a lot of fucking bad people. But we are just as culpable. We did it in the name of pride and to test a new toy out. That's how
I remember in high school I was reading some book, I forget what it was, though. It was talking about Germany as they were doing the blitzkrieg over London.
All the meth that they fucking smoked.
Well, yeah, but they were also, all their oil was BP oil, British Petroleum. It just came down to who was paying who. But you could have cut off Germany pretty good if you were like, you know what, no more oil from here. But instead it was like, well, we'll take the pound. Go, yeah, you buy the oil and you're going to go fly your planes. But as London is just getting bombed over and over. But it all comes down, this we were talking about before, though. The government does not care about you. Do the people of Japan, do they want war? I don't know what 10% did, 20, 30%, like not the
Mhm.
fucking majority. Like they were still going day to day. They had bills to pay. They had farms to do.
They are
They had families to
just
raise.
like us. They are
Yeah, like
just
right
like
now.
us.
Yeah. I don't support any of my dollars leaving right now. Like, let's pull our dollars back in and let's see what's happening.
Yeah.
Like we send money out to everywhere to either do third party wars, shadow wars, to shit that we do in fucking Africa to topple governments.
Mhm.
Like, can we pull my tax dollars back in for a minute, help people out in here, see what's happening, get a better plan?
Then figure out the rest of the world. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. This flag that we carry, that we're the leaders of the free world, and that's great and all. I'm fucking go America, go free world. I don't want any wars. I don't want any more people dying. But like at the same time, like figure out what's going on your own turf before you fucking venture out. Like I'm for the war in Ukraine. I hate to bring this back to politics, but like I think Putin is on a dangerous path. We've got Kim Jong-un, and we've now got China Z. So we've got Putin Z and Kim Jong-un. They are teamed up, and that's the axis of evil right now. That's the axis.
But didn't
of evil.
we push them towards each other though? So that's
We
part of the problem.
fucking gave them. We sat there and said, "Hold out your hand. Hold out your hand. Now hold it. You guys are best friends now.
Yeah.
Fucking figure it out."
But then as we did that, we were like, how dare they become best friends?
How dare they?
Yeah. But this, so you talked about Japan and not giving them an off ramp. But that's the same thing we're doing to Russia. Now, is Russia right in any of this? I have no fucking idea because I'm not over there. I'm not big on. I'm not in depth in geopolitics. It seems bad to invade another country.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know. But also, if you give somebody zero off ramp, if you don't say to Putin and Zelensky and be like, hey, Zelensky, you're not getting all your shit back, dude. I don't know what to tell you, man. It fucking sucks for you. You guys don't have the army to compete with them. Now, as we're dumping billions of dollars, giving them all the shit, which is our third party in here now. Like, oh, Abrams tanks. Oh, it's not us. It's actually just Ukraine using them. As we're over there training them or doing all this bullshit, you just keep fucking poking Putin. Not that he should get off scot-free. I'm just saying, what is the off-ramp? What is the dividing stuff up and being like, hey, let's everybody stop bombing each other. Let's stop ruining the fucking world, the country, everything else. Zero of that, though. It is Russia. You need to give up everything you took and everything that you are, and then we'll consider letting you still exist.
I agree.
That's not realistic, though, at any time, let alone in this modern world.
Right.
Well, they're sitting there going, you know what? You cut us off, and our economy actually got stronger after you cut us off. After we had become resilient, we did. You people are the one who are fucking struggling.
We became independent, or they became
they became independent, and then they match up with China and India, and then they have BRICS and everything. And it almost seems like we're being taken down from the inside because, hey, who knows who's getting what kickbacks?
Yeah.
So God forbid that we want to hand money out to Ukraine. Like, okay, maybe I'm on board. Ukraine should be able to defend itself. What are we going to do? Rand Paul goes, I'm not voting for it until we have an accounting procedure. And then people are like, what, you a Russian apologist? You're a Russian apologist? You're not give them money? He's like, I just want to know where the dollars are going, man. Like, we can do whatever you want. Who's going to control the dollars? No, they do. You fucking Russian. How dare you? Now we're billions of dollars deep, and it comes out, they go, oh, we don't know where most of the money went. We don't know where most of the equipment went. We don't know. I'm sorry.
I mean, we did that in Iraq too. I mean, in Iraq, I hate that we got back onto politics.
But who gets rich into that? Who gets? Yeah. It all comes down to it. But it's all the time. It's all government. It's not Democrats, Republicans. It's all of them. It's BlackRock. It's who's going to rebuild. Who's
going to be there in the aftermath.
Yeah, that's all it is cause destruction and then come back. I am sorry we're so deep into politics.
No. This is like honestly. So being a third shifter, I don't have adult conversations with people. I don't like that. That's a huge reason why I started this podcast, because I felt like I wanted to be able to, sit around with my best friends, fuck around, but actually have serious talks. Now, 12 beers in, my group isn't having those serious talks anymore, and it's kind of hard, and we're goofing around and it's fun, but I don't get the chance. And the people that I do surround myself with are just so hard Republicans that they're not willing to listen to any other opinions, any kind of outsource or any kind of outside information. It's just, this is what Fox News has told me, and this is what is the fact. So I am sorry that we keep getting into this.
It's fine. Yeah. No, I'm here for your outlet. That if you're fine with it, and we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely.
I'm on board. And it's a shame that if the country's not going one way, like currently, a lot of people, and even who support the current Democrats, are not happy with the way the country's going. That doesn't always mean that you have to vote the other side. Like, bring someone else in who's going to go, hey, you know what? God forbid, this goes back to UFO. Why is the government trying to control the UFO narrative now? Because they can't admit that they fucked up. They can't go, hey guys, we lied in 47 about Roswell. Hey guys, we lied about this. We said it was just swamp gas. Here we go. We don't know what it is. Nobody wants to say they don't know what it is. They have to have an answer. But guess what, man? We're all fucking adults. If you say you don't know what it is, but you give us a plan, like we're all on board.
So in 2021, we had the raid on Area 51. Did you have any kind of hope for that? I mean,
no. That was a joke. That was nothing, man. There's nothing there anyway. Once you know about the place, it's gone.
Where do you think they brought it to?
So I was talking the podcast I released today. This guy on Twitter, Ashton. I talked to him. Dude, he was a nice guy. He spoke clearly. His thoughts were sober and concise. Like he was good to go. So in August, I saw MH370 was trending. And I always talk about MH370 a lot of my podcast, and it's the Malaysian flight that disappeared. Mm-hmm. And I talk about it a lot is because, allegedly it disappeared in the Indian Ocean. Yep. And they talked about that it was the least graphed, it was the least
covered,
covered area. So that they didn't know what was there. They're like, dude, like it's just the fucking Indian Ocean. Like you can't go out there and sit here and see what's out. It's fucking the seas are rough. It changes in a heartbeat. Like you can't send ships out there. Like you'll get sunk. So this is the least covered area, the least mapped area. That's what I'm going for. This is the least mapped area like in the earth. I was like, that's fucking crazy, man. Like I would assume it just never clicked to me. Like I just never thought of it, or I'm dumb. And probably it's half and half. But if you are not on a shipping lane, like there are highways in the ocean, and there are fucking back roads that nobody's on. And if you are not on a highway, you are not going to be found. And they might not know what is 5 miles over because that is not where you go. And they just stay on these things. So flight MH370 crashes, they never find shit. They find like 10 pieces. It's less than 1%.
Debris keeps coming up, and there's a guy out there.
But barely. But it's the same guy that keeps fucking finding it. So it's the same guy that keeps fucking finding it. So I see MH370s trending, and I run across this guy, Ashton, and he's posting these videos. And they, so I interview him, and this is fucking crazy, man. So this disappears in March 2014. In early April, it's 5 days after it disappears. I forget the day that it disappeared, but it's 5 days after. A video comes out, and it shows, it shows, and I forget how it's shot. I'm sorry, guys. This is how I trick you into going back and listen to the last episode. You have to go back and do it. I forget how it was shot, but it ends up being a spy satellite is shooting. And within 72 days, there are 3 videos out. And it shows the plane flying at low altitude hours after it was lost, and ends up being a U.S. spy satellite. And the one guy's recording off his Citrix desktop. Like he's logged in and recording off of that. And you can see it's like cropped out. So Ashton's telling me, he's like, oh, there's a Predator drone over here. You can see the other satellite here. They cropped all that shit out. And he tells me how he found all this stuff. So I'm a bad storyteller here. Anyway, there are 3 UAPs that triangulate over the front of the plane, and they're spinning around. And it fucking creates a goddamn portal, man. And the plane goes through it. So normally I'd be like, okay, that's special effects. Like this is 2023. No, this video came out in 2014. Then there was 3 videos that came out that showed they were able to match it up, all the cloud cover, all this stuff. It would be very hard to get down to that detail, right? So also, this happens 10 years ago, about 9.5 years ago. All you need is the plane to get found. All you need is a wing to show up, and this video is bullshit. Well, guess what hasn't happened? The fucking wing hasn't showed up. So Diego Garcia Air Base is out there in the Pacific. Apparently, that's like the new Area 51, he's telling me. So this is right near there. The UAPs show up. There's a black hole, a portal you can see like in the video. And then like the thermals come out this FLIR. So you can see the UAPs are actually like sucking energy away, and they're flying into cold spots. So they're like kind of pulling energy away and falling into cold spots, but controlled falling, which is kind of like what Bob Lazar said was happening. So again, this is fucking crazy. And this all comes down to like the first video's in 5 days and the second one's in 72. Like a lot of time to make it. I'm sorry, not a lot of time to make such a detailed video and for it to stand the test of time. So they don't find any of this shit. This one guy finds like 10 pieces of the wreckage. There's no serial numbers on any of the pieces that he finds, nothing to match back specifically to MH370. Also, the pieces that are coming out, they've been in the ocean for years. They don't have the deterioration. They don't have the growth that they're supposed to have for being in the ocean for that long. So he's pulling these pieces out. So apparently Diego Garcia, it's one guy who worked for IBM. Apparently he sent his girlfriend a picture, and the picture shows up on Reddit, and it's all black picture. And it's like, I don't know where I'm at. I feel like I was drugged. Like I'm really fucking confused. Like, please help me. And it's geo-tracked to Diego Garcia. Fucking weird, right? So on that plane, it was like 70% Malaysian, 20% Chinese, some Indians, and some Westerners, India, the country. And the Chinese nationals, 4 days later, are calling the cell phones of the missing people. Dude, they're fucking ringing. If your phone goes dead, what does it do?
Guys, you go straight to voicemail.
Go straight to voicemail, man. It's fucking ringing on national television for them. How crazy is that?
Let me tell you what, I did not know I was going to be fucking going into this, man. This is crazy.
I would say this is probably my top 2 craziest show that I interviewed. And as he's telling me, and I'm like, okay, like I get it. And I'm here. Hey, you want to come tell me your story? I'm on board. I'm not going to be rude to you. I'm going to hear like your truth. I hate that fucking term, like in normal outside terms. But like if your truth is you saw Bigfoot, come tell me Bigfoot, man. I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, how is it that he's 7 feet tall? I'm not here to argue about that. He's telling me all this stuff. I'm like, dude, this kind of fucking checks out. He's on all these Reddit communities for the last couple of months. They're trying to rip it apart. There's debunkers coming out. The more the debunkers are coming out, it's actually proving what is on there. It's like, well, it's because of this. And they're able to show, well, actually that is in there. So what you're saying is not true. So, he's cross-checking me all of this. I don't know all the shit. So I can't go here and be like, well, actually, Ashton, as you're telling me this, the VFX on here is not, but I'm taking him for his word. He's a lot of people in there. My other guy they interviewed, is my second episode. I found him on Twitter. I saw him a couple. So I started in April. In January, late January, February, I started following him. And I saw him years before. And I followed him a little bit and I jumped off. I was like, this is a little too crazy for me. I can't do this. So there were these earthquakes in Turkey in early February. And somebody I followed retweeted this guy, the Canadian earthquake researcher. And he is circling on a global map, on zoomed in maps, very small pieces of land. He's not circling the United States and saying, hey, there's going to be an earthquake. He's not circling the state of Iowa and saying, hey, there's going to be an earthquake. He's circling your fucking city and saying, there's going to be an earthquake here within the next 4 days, and it's going to be a 6+. And guess what fucking happens, man? There's an earthquake there above 6+. And he just retweets himself back. And this is over and over and over. So he thinks there's going to be a 10+ on Japan. All these plates are jammed out there, and there are very few large earthquakes. Like there's barely any 6+ for like apparently the last year plus or whatever, which is very unusual. They'll break somewhere here or there. He's like, all the plates are jammed, and it's right here in Japan where it's going to break, and it's going to be a 10+, and it's going to set it off all over the world. So everywhere's going to have an earthquake. There's plates everywhere. It's going to start Japan. Alaska's going to set off the San Andreas Fault, and he's like going through all this stuff, and like, he's pretty measured about it too. He's a nice guy. Like he sounded pretty normal. The idea is a little fucking crazy. He sounded pretty normal. And as more of this has gone on, this has now been, so this was April I had him on. This is like October practically. This is 6 months of he is always retweeting himself in the last couple of days of like, oh, picked it here. And you can just see where he fucking picked it and what happened. It is crazy. He thinks for the next year, there's going to be a 10+ in Japan, which is going to set off worldwide earthquakes.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
That is absolutely fucking terrifying.
Yeah. He's saying the second largest naval base down in Panama is following him. Like he has governments following him on Twitter,
trying to figure out where these are going to go. Or
they just know about it. I guess. I don't know. It's crazy.
Fuck. Yeah. What's your favorite conspiracy? I mean, I can't call this a conspiracy because this guy has evidence, and evidence proves to a point. What's your favorite conspiracy?
Originally, so what I got started with was JFK. Like I was a young kid, and like my dad liked JFK. We would talk about it, and then the JFK movie came out, and I felt like I was watching like Breaking Ground. I was watching like secret footage, like watching the Oliver Stone movie, and I would read stuff about aliens and UFOs. But the one that I'm most intrigued about, the one that really has me, what is happening in Antarctica? What is going on?
Oh, fuck me. Let's go. Let's go.
Like, why is John Kerry visiting? Why is the Pope visiting? Why is Bono visiting? What is happening over there?
When they, their land strip, to land the plane, ice, full ice.
Really?
And yeah, it's completely covered in ice. And I don't know how the fuck they land, but I was watching a interview with a scientist that regularly goes over there. And from what I understand, it is supposed to be only scientists out there, but there have been guests on Joe Rogan, I believe, that have come out and been like, yo, this is what we do out there. We're testing new new material. We're testing new weapons, we're investigating aliens and all this other kind of things. But it's just Antarctica is the most perfect spot to test this shit out because there's nobody there. There is nothing out there. It's just ice and a base. So why the fuck not? Why not dig down? Why not dig down, get closer to the fucking center of the earth where it's warmer and build a fucking base and just go nuts?
Do you think there's a flash frozen society, alien society, advanced society in Antarctica?
Oh, I don't know. I know that we found bacteria. I know we found quite a few things that we've brought back just for shits and giggles, which absolutely terrifies me.
So you ready? There's another one. Here's another one. Mars. You ever see like the face of Cydonia and all this stuff? Like the face on Mars, and it's all the Cydonia area. So there is a scientist, Dr. John Brandenburg. And in the 70s, they were getting the initial data back. There's a particle, I guess, whatever, after an atom bomb can go off. And we were able to measure our atmosphere before because we were measuring this stuff. And it wasn't there. And then after we were testing the atom bombs, it did show up. So it only shows up from nuclear explosions. And then in fucking Mars, according to Dr. John Brandenburg, who was fucking like NASA scientist and all high up, he thinks there was a Martian nuclear war 500,000 years ago. So you'll see stuff with the rover, you ever see like the little statue lady and like, well, it's actually only 2 inches, or there's like little gopher like things. There are like pyramids on Mars, the face on Mars. There's
a shitload of pyramids. There's the face. There's so much on Mars.
Yeah. And they were fucking wiped out from a nuclear war, man. And they said they bombed both poles. That's where the highest, the concentration of these ions or whatever they are. So it shows that whoever bombed them, it wasn't like, hey, we're bombing Japan to show we're here to win. It was fuck your planet.
We're here to decimate.
Yeah. Wiped out the planet by doing it at the poles. It would have taken off the atmosphere and changed the entire climate.
How do you feel about NASA using filters on Mars to show its color?
Dude, that is bullshit. That is such bullshit. When I grew up, Mars was the red planet. And the sky was red because the soil was red and the sun reflected off of it and it caused the atmosphere to be red. And now you look at it, man, and I don't know, it's a rocky, dry shore. That shit's filmed in fucking Canada for Mars. That's not fucking Mars, man. I had a flat earther on, David Weiss. He actually had a really awesome podcast, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, and he covered like those 100 plus episodes.
Yeah, I talked to him. He's a good guy.
He's a good dude, man. He's a good dude, right? I don't know if the Earth is flat. And as I'm talking to him, I feel like all the evidence I brought, he always talk about like flat smack. I'll flat smack you if you're going to bring like the ball shit to him. Mm-hmm. I feel like all my evidence was kind of like helping him, but like that wasn't my goal. But so they had Neil deGrasse Tyson was on Rogan, and he talked about the spin of the Earth and then the oceans pulling in. It would actually be fatter at the equator, but there's no picture of that. And then there was an article I saw, the Indian Ocean, there was a gravity anomaly. And I'm scrolling through like Apple News and I see this. I'm like, shit, dude, I got to like a fucking Indian Ocean. We talked about that. MH370. I got to read about that. And a gravity anomaly. Like, let's go check this out. And they said, actually, the Earth is shaped like a lumpy potato because it's just bumpy all around. But there's no picture of that. All we have is the blue marble picture. Like there's a circle blue marble picture that's perfect. So they don't tell us the truth. If the Earth is a pear, let me say it. I don't care. If the Earth is a potato, let me say it. I don't care. But they fucking lie about that. And we talked about Mars and them changing the color. It's just another way for them to lie to you and then you to disbelieve what you were taught to buy into the new lie.
Why do you think they make it red? You think it's just them just chasing the...
Well, they made it red, but now it's grayish blue now. Mars isn't red anymore. It's grayish blue. So where the fuck was the red? Like that was just in our kids' books that we read in grade school.
I've seen videos somewhere in Canada. It was somewhere in Canada, and they had this just giant red clay area. And I looked at it and I was like, that kind of looks like Mars. And it goes on for a little bit. And I was like, no, this like really looks like Mars. And like, I don't, it's hard. It's one of those, it's one of those things for me to disconnect from the lie. I'm so brainwashed in this because like I always think about this red planet and I think about the faces and the pyramids and the shit that I've seen that they've been willing to quote unquote show. And it's so hard for me to fathom that Mars isn't red. And I think that's like the most the government's got out of me for right now. But
yeah, but they'll show these Mars pictures with a little mountain in the background. And then I forget the place in Canada, but they'll show the exact
The same
thing, but it's just colored differently.
Yeah.
And they'll bring it up and they'll be like, well, that, fucking flat earthers. It's like, well, okay. So we talked about the moon earlier and Buzz Aldrin said he didn't go. I don't know that interview that he said. And I see a lot of shit.
There's a bunch.
I'll have to dig in and see. But so I think I'm not sure how I feel if they went to the moon or not. And now that we lost the technology, it seems a lot more bullshit. I do think that no matter what. How do we do
that? How do we lose the technology to go to the moon, but we were able to have a space
progress past the TI calculator, but like, we just can't fathom how to tell ChatGPT figure out how to get the fucking moon, and it should do that instantly. It's fucking bullshit. But people buy this. This is the problem. People buy this. The space station. I'm going full flat Earth here. The space station. It is man's greatest achievement, right? We have a floating fucking space station above us that does all these science experiments, and we send up different countries. We have Elon Musk sending supplies up there. We didn't take one fucking picture of the thing being built. Dude, you buy shit at IKEA? Like, it's a joke, like, IKEA, I have 10 parts left over. That's fucking true. Like, IKEA is like, oh, all right, we packed you extra 3 and you have 10 extra parts left over. You're like, well, where the fuck does this go? I'm not going to unbuild it. They send these people up in giant astronaut suits, and they're supposed to take their wrench and put this shit together, and it's airtight and airlocked. That makes zero sense to me.
You just fucked my entire world up.
I ruined it.
I'm dead ass serious, because I'm just like thinking about it now, because it's like one of those things where, okay, so we've been going to the moon since 1969. We're going to space, quote unquote, since 1969. 70, 80, 90, 20, 10, 22 or 20. So it's 60 years of going to quote unquote space. I don't think I've ever seen like progress of the space station. And anytime I think about it, I just think about a bunch of tubes.
Yeah. It's not fucking there, dude. You can look it up and they'll say they sent like the body of it up attached to like the Challenger like thing. But there's also all the, like, that's not just the living tubes. And you have to change shit out. So I talk about this. So
how did they initially fucking build it? How did they initially build it? How long?
Right?
How did they get this together? That I mean, it had to be like a decompression pod, kind of like what they did in, like, if you're an underwater welder and you're working on an oil or a pipeline going into the sea, like, you would have to have a decompression pod out there, but there's nothing fucking holding it. There's nothing holding it because it's floating constantly. You're constantly fucking floating. Like, oh my God, this is fucking
crazy, right? Yeah.
Did you know that the reason why the Challenger exploded was because of the faulty O-rings that the FLDS church created?
Really? I didn't know. Yeah. I knew why it exploded. That was it. So I remember I was going to say to you, all right, so you live in Iowa, right? You have seasons, right? You have winter and summer and everything.
Unfortunately.
I'm sure you probably have a bedroom door that jams a little bit sometimes, like when it gets summertime. How the fuck do they do it in the space station? How the fuck is that shit not expanding and contracting multiple times and to the extreme that when you're in the sunlight, you're that much closer, you're above the atmosphere. Like, how hot is it? And all of your widgets that you have tied in, that you've screwed in, none of that shit changes. Your main hatch door is always just perfectly aligned all the time.
You go from an extreme heat to an extreme cold. I mean, space, I mean, you have to think, leaving Earth's atmosphere, breaking that, the layer that we have, breaking that, you're so fucking hot. You have to be hot to get out there. And then you get into there and space is just absolute frozen tundra. It would expand and then compress. It would be like, God.
And so that's all I want is to prove the flat earthers wrong. I just need a scientist to get a phone out. I need their iPhone. They send that shit up there. Send the twins, send those 2 guys back up there. Gifford's husband, Mr. Gifford, and then his twin that had his DNA changed from being up there for the world record. Send them both up, a little iPhone, and give me a 360 and show me the Earth from there and what's happening.
I had to explain to a coworker about how being in space for that amount of time was devastating to your body. I was like, when this guy comes back to Earth, not only is he going to have a shortened life expectancy, but his muscles from bloating for so long and not using them, like, he is going to be a fucked human being. The guy that did David Bowie Space Odyssey, he did a cover of Space Odyssey. I can't remember his name. I think his name's David. It's the astronaut with the thick mustache. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know the picture. Yeah, I don't know the guy's name.
But he was out in space, I want to say for like 10 years. I could be wrong. He was out in space for 10 years and then he finally came back. He once held the record for being out in space the longest. But I explained to her, I was like, when he comes back to Earth, he's not going to be the same person. He is going to be a fucking basically baked potato. He's going to be so soft it's not even funny. He's going to hit Earth's gravity. I'm surprised that he's still alive today, honestly.
So you mentioned the Challenger. So the Challenger is interesting. We're here for all the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But all the people in the Challenger, like half of them had identical twins. There's also like the other half have a doppelganger that happens to be doing the exact same thing that person's specialty was. Like, there was like an astrophysicist and he dies. And there's another guy that looks spot on to him. That's also an astrophysicist. And it's like, whoa, that's a little fucking strange. But that's a big conspiracy. I'm not going to say the government blew up the Challenger and whatever might have done. But then you go to 9/11 and they post all the, 17, 19 hijackers, whoever it was. And they find that half of them are just living in Pakistan. Like, that's not even fucking them. They're like, that's me on CNN. That's me on Fox. Like, I'm here. I didn't hijack shit. Yeah, they're on there. And you can go look at this, like USA Today articles, all this stuff. They had, so the MH370. So I'm talking to Ashton, and are there any conspiracies tied to this? Are there people on the plane? Like, did they kill all the people? Or like, are there some like Chinese people who are like back and they're like posting on Facebook and like you see like, oh, this guy picked his life up again. And he said, spot on, the entire crew has doppelgangers on Diego Garcia Air Base. Like, spot on. They look like them, just aged about 8 years older. I was like, what the fuck, man? Dude, we live in the Truman Show. None of this shit is real.
Now it's your choice to believe it or, disprove it. What are you going to do?
The MH370, that's fine. The hijackers, the 9/11 hijackers, like, oh, we just found this unburned passport and here's the other 19 we instantly have. But like the people you're saying that did it, and I'm not saying hey, you want to say they did it? Great, I'm on board. But where the fuck? Like, you're not going to update your data that like these 8 people are alive over here and they're like, I'm not fucking dead. I didn't hijack a plane because I'm still alive. Like, that's fucking crazy.
What's your biggest worry when it comes to the government?
Oh, it's already here, man. It's AI. It is that I
fucking hate AI so fucking much.
Yeah. That they just came out that it was a positive that one of the government agencies is creating their own AI to counter the Chinese AI program that's like a social credit score. But like, okay, so all my ramblings for these episodes are going to be put into a file. They're going to be able to, they know my thoughts from like the shit that I Google. Like, that's all in a file. And it's going to come down to like, okay, you want to leave your area. You want to fly, you want to go on vacation? All right, well, sign this affidavit, swear. Like, it's going to come down. It's overreach. My concern with the government is overreach on both sides. Like, both of them are fucked.
You brought up AI, and AI is my current biggest worry. And I'm not much of a person that like, constantly thinks about something like this, but this is something that I genuinely do fear because it is constantly learning off of us. It is taking information from us. It is taking information from the internet because it is a part of the internet. So not only is it going to learn and process and learn and process and learn and constantly grow. My biggest fear is something Jon Stewart said on the Colbert Show. He said, my biggest fear is that one day some idiot in a lab will say, ah, yes, I figured it out. And that will be the end of humanity, because I fear that one day we will put this AI into more than what we have with artificial intelligence, more than Sophia, more than and Brian, more than any of these other synth-like bodies, and make it possible for this person or thing, an inanimate object, I'm going to have to call it an inanimate object, and give it prescience. And prescience is the absolute fear. So it's already got all of our information in its database. It's already got everything we say and do into its database. What's stopping it from building a replicating machine? What's stopping it from building something that's going to not only progress it? There was an episode of Futurama where Bender becomes prescient. He finds out how to soup himself up. I forget the term for it, but basically speed himself up, and he basically becomes a literal fucking god. Because he has all the knowledge of the world. He's able to replicate himself and make himself better throughout the show. And think about that in real time. If you have an AI agent like Sophia, let's say they give her legs. They finally they chop off the table that they've glued her to, and they give her fucking legs. What's stopping her from building a machine? What's stopping her from replicating herself? What's stopping her from bettering herself? And what's stopping her from multiplying herself to the point where we as a species are no longer needed and we are no longer a necessity? I'm not worried about us becoming fucking slaves to the AI later down the road. I'm worried about us being fucking absolutely pushed out of existence, that we will not be the top of the food chain any longer, that there will be something like AI that takes our spot at the top of the food chain. That is
we
my
won't even
biggest
be
fear.
on the food chain. We're like,
No.
we're non-existent in the food chain.
No.
Because why would we be slaves to the robots? Like, we have to feed these people, we have to give them clothes, we have to do like all this bullshit. They're just going to recreate. So what's going to happen is, so I was talking to somebody and they're like, oh, well, you know, the government's going to create regulations. The government's so far fucking behind. Like, everything is like, Pandora's out of the box, man. It's open.
We just had
It's out.
we just had a press meeting with Kamala Harris where she tried to fucking describe what fucking AI was to an entire room. And I posted it on Instagram. She's like, well, let's start off with AI, fancy because it's got 2 letters. And it's like, are you joking about this right now? It means artificial intelligence, and it means that it's learning off of us, and we need to like predict what it's going to learn off of us. And it's like, lady, do you fucking hear yourself right now? Do you fucking understand the shit you are fucking saying? It's not.
She can't handle it. So my concern, and I agree with you, my concern is that somebody's gonna be so smart and say, hey, we solved global warming, and everyone's gonna applaud. Like, thank God we solved this. Thank God. Hey, we have world peace. And they're gonna tell the AI, create world peace. Well, what is the easiest way to create world peace?
Get rid of us.
Fucking ants. And that's what it is, man. It's not the ants fucking fighting with each other. They're going to go, you know what? Get rid of the humans. Oh, it's going to go around and hunt us all down? No, it's going to turn off the fucking power.
It's going to be like, okay, so like you think about it. You think about the world's problems as a whole. We have war with each other. We can't get along with each other. We have religion. We have pollution. We have just impending doom that we don't focus on more as a united front, as a world, because this affects fucking everybody. We are so divided as human people that when we get into the situation, AI is going to be like, you guys are the fucking problem.
Yeah. It's just
you guys are the reason why this is
calculated decision. And it's not going to be like, oh, well, if Brian and Tyler could just talk a little more, they'd figure it out. Like, well, you know what? Lock Tyler in his house and turn his lights off, and lock Brian in his house, and they'll starve to death in a little bit. And I have 0 feelings, so I don't give a shit. They'll just be dead. And hey, that's the problem solved.
Hey, fucking our houses are already fucking AI. I mean, they're getting there. I mean, we have artificial intelligent houses now. We have houses that fucking we can control from our fucking phones. I mean, what is to stop?
They had a server in DC crash 2 years ago, whatever. But everybody who had the Google Home thing, they were locked in their house. There was like government officials like, I cannot exit my house because the Google server crashed and my front door is Google controlled. This is the problem, man. This is the dude. My wife's car got the key fob. And it's got the little button you touch underneath. I don't have a fucking key. There's 0 key. So her back latch in the trunk would only work occasionally. Like, I would go to the store and, you know, put groceries in there. It would open then. I'd get home and hit the unlock button, not working. Go to the door, hit the unlock button, not working. Start the car, hit the unlock button, not working. Give it 5 minutes. Sometimes it would work. Other times I'm pulling down the back seat, pulling all the shit out. There's no emergency latch because it's an SUV. So your emergency exit is climb over the back seat, and next thing you know, you're at a door. So I'm going through all the shit, and I take it to a mechanic. I'm like, man, like, I just need this fixed. This is more like a pain in the ass. It's like very much a first world problem. I have a car that runs, but like, can you make this dumb? Like, I just need a fucking key. I don't need this to open. He's like, oh, it's $900 fucking dollars to replace the automatic sensor thing. Just put a keyhole in there, and I could put it in and open it. Does not exist. Like, they make everything hard on purpose.
Yep.
It's a pain in the ass, man. What's your biggest concern besides AI? We covered that.
I was going to say
most
it's AI,
fun
hands
concern.
down.
What's your most fun conspiracy? What has you? What's a fun thing to think about that worries you?
That in about 150 years, we're going to have an asteroid fucking hit us. That's the nearest.
Do you have any, Nearbu, Planet X, 10th planet, anything like that, or like the competing star that most star systems have?
I look at it, and I see Planet X. I see videos constantly. and astrophysicists trying to explain how this planet is more able to terraform to our lifestyles and how we can navigate through this new planet. But it doesn't matter, because what we're going to do is we're going to bring Earth's problems to this next planet, and this next planet is going to be just as fucked. I think humanity is the most toxic thing to the planet Earth, and we have yet to figure that out. That is my biggest fear, is that it just repeats. It's a repeating remainder. So all we do is we just repeat. We just repeat and repeat and repeat the same problem. Even if we have a slightest solution, it just is going to be. Humanity itself is a toxic disease that learned how to talk, and we are fucking everything up as we go for the process of money and our own benefits. And nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cares. And it is so scary. It is so scary. And humanity is so far from being able to be saved that at this point I'm just accepting.
It's tough, man. I don't want to take the black pill where you're just like, oh, dude, we're fucked. Like it's over. Like I still had some hope for things.
I ate that bitch like 12 years ago.
I think maybe I ate it and I'm like denying it. We talked about World War II earlier. I enjoy American history, but then you get down to it, like a lot of it is like really dark. So
Very
my
dark.
my son's turning 10 and he likes 9/11. Like they're learning about 9/11. Not like likes it like it's a fucking event. Like, but he like
my 7-year-old learned about 9/11 when he was 6 last year, and he came home and he's like, "What's 9/11?" And I was like, I don't know how to have this conversation with you right now. Like, I've got a bunch of conspiracy videos on my YouTube. You can pull up my YouTube right now, and it's just a bunch of horrible stuff that I like to learn about. And it's like, you're not ready for this. You're not ready for this. And I don't.
You have to walk the fine line. So we'll get in that in a minute. You have to walk the fine line of like, hey, man, let me tell you the truth versus whatever it might be. But for 9/11, he's coming home and he's like, oh, he's like, they have like kids' books, man. Like they have like kids' drawings of like people falling.
The fuck weird. Up. Are you serious?
Right? Dude, yeah. I'm sure I could probably go find it and show it on screen for you. Maybe I'll say that for the end of the recording. Dude, I was like, Jesus Christ, man. Like this is like a Bernstein Bears drawing of a guy jumping off a building. Fucking crazy. So I guess it's Disney. I came down last Saturday or Sunday. Usually I'm up at the latest like 7 a.m. during the week, a lot earlier. Weekends, hey, get the sleep in to that solid 7 a.m. But he'll get up like 6:30. He'll put on, we let him watch some more like fun things. He was watching The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, The Mummy 2.
Yeah, the good one.
So, yeah, man, he liked that one. Yeah. So he kept on with the 9/11 series. Like, well, okay, well, we'll see what happens. So he comes down. I come down and he has it on. I guess it's on Disney, and there's like 6 parts to it, and it's 45 minutes to an hour each episode. So I was a freshman. I was in English class, 8 o'clock in the morning. I guess I had a break because I remember like kind of coming home and hearing on the radio, Preston and Steve, local in Philadelphia, they're talking about, they're like, oh, plane like hit the building. And I get home and I guess I think it was on like CNN at the time or whatever. I definitely was probably watching CNN at the time, and I put it on. And I just fucking was glued to the TV for like the next multiple days and watched it. And very fucking sad. Like, obviously, very fucking sad. All that shit. Besides, like, the Building 7 stuff, into that another time. Very fucking sad what you're seeing on the TV. So we're watching this documentary, man. And I've never seen most of this footage. And it is the firefighters gathering in the lobby of, I guess it's Tower 1, whatever that was hit first, right? Whatever tower was hit first. They're gathered in the lobby. And then they're just sitting here and you hear, boom. And they're all kind of looking at each other like, what the fuck was that? And you see people like, hey, what was that? What was that? Boom. And they're like looking around like, what is that? Boom. It's fucking bodies hitting. And they all fucking figure it out that they're like, that's people jumping. And they're all down, like trying to get to their game plan. And you just see like the dead looks in their face. Like at least there was like some like, hey man, this can be like an exciting mission we're on here. Like they just thought it was like one plane and like, hey, this is like, we're here, man. We're firefighters. We're going to climb these 77 stories and get up there. And then you start hearing that fucking noise and all the adrenaline, all of everything,
It's
like
the fear, dude. It's fear.
Dude, it was, they were just like, holy shit. Like it is so bad up there. People are just fucking jumping. And this is on the goddamn Disney program. So we made it through like 30 minutes. Like, hey man, like, yeah, turn this off. Like we'll talk about this in a little bit. But like it's nuts. He's just looking at it as like a historical aspect. How I would look back at World War II, and I'm sure growing up in the 80s, there's people who served there. Like, hey man, your interest does not reflect the shit that we were in.
Oh.
I don't know. It's just a weird story I had for you. I don't know.
No, it's 100% the same with my situation. My 6-year-old came home and he's like, "Yeah, my teacher told me about 911," and I was like, "What the fuck are you talking
If you
about?"
call
Like,
them, don't let them in the house because they can search us. Do not let them in.
yeah. I've got weed upstairs. We're in Iowa. Don't let them come in here. Like, fuck off with that. And like,
What are you, a
he's
narc?
like,
Are they teaching me a
yeah,
narc at school?
who the fuck is talking to you? I need to go to the school right now and
Yeah.
figure out who the fuck is talking to you. But he was like, no, it was like when the buildings fell. And I was like, oh, you mean 9/11? And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, you fucking serious? My kid's second grade teacher is teaching my son about 9/11. I'm not mad at the school curriculum because that's history. But like when I had to sit down and show him the news feed of 9/11, I didn't bring up the jumping bodies. I didn't mention how many people died. I didn't mention anything. I just sat him down and I said, this is what I saw in 3rd grade when this happened. This happened. And when it happened, I didn't understand. And I know you don't understand right now, but one day you will, and you'll understand how fucked the world really is. And I mean, obviously I paraphrase. I said, you'll understand how messed up the world really is. And he watched, I want to say about an hour's worth of content about 9/11 with me. I think what it was the teacher's dad was a firefighter and he died in 9/11. And I think that's why she had such like a strong affinity to teach these small children about 9/11. But like when it happened and he asked me about it, it was like one of those things where it's like, I almost don't know how to talk about this because it's so gruesome. It's so fucked. Did our government have a hand in it? Is that something that I want to talk about? Parenting is fucking hard, man.
You're like, I want to tell you the truth.
Oh yeah, dude. I
also want you to be normal and like just live your life and just be happy. But dude, at that age, like I get that the teacher, like you didn't learn about the atrocities of World War II in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. And I get that it's like a national event and it's close in time to happen now. So you're tied to it. But like maybe we shouldn't get into
these kinds of issues.
The weeds. Yeah, get into the weeds. Okay, hey, 9/11 Remembrance Day. Everyone like bow your head and
and they want to understand why this day is so important and why 9/11, what happened. And like whenever I showed him, the first video I showed him, I said, I will show you what the world saw when it first happened. And the best video I could possibly show you was the Regis Philbin show. And him and Kelly were getting ready to start the show and they stopped and they said, some travesty just happened and we're going to show it to you now. And it was the North Building and it was on fire and you hear the crowd gasp and they're like, oh my God, this is downtown. Like this is in the city that we're living in. And you see the second plane hit the South Building and it's like, this is on purpose. And you hear the crowd freaking out. You see Regis like trying to hold it together as like he fully understands that people are dying. And I showed my son that and I was like, I don't know how much more I'm willing to show you because this is like, I don't know how much our government has a hand in this. I mean, obviously the deaths are real. 100% the deaths are real. The travesty that happened, 100% real. But it just, I'm not ready to talk to somebody that's 6 years old to talk about conspiracies. And whenever he is ready, like I will be able to sit down and talk to him about it. But like today,
I did give my son I gave him a little nugget though when he was bringing it up. I was like, all right, if it comes up in school, so ask him about Building 7.
You brought this up before. So what is Building 7? What is Building 7? So I know about the Pentagon. I know about the Twin Towers.
Oh,
what is Building 7?
Building 7 collapsed at 5 p.m. on 9/11 within the World Trade Center complex.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a BBC reporter and it's like 4:45 and they're like, oh, and Building 7 has just collapsed right now. And it's right over their shoulder. It is fucking there. It did not collapse. And so we just got word that Building 7 just collapsed. And I forget the guy who owns the complex at the time. And he just happened to refinance at the time and added terroristic insurance liability to it. And there's a lot of deep, dark stuff with the guy who owned the whole complex and what was going on in it. That all of building 1 and 2 were filled with asbestos, and they would have to rip it all down. It was going to be like $1 trillion to do all this stuff. But he just happened to re-up his insurance policy, and all this shit just happened a month later. So, but that's fine. There's this guy, the guy that owns it. He's talking to a firefighter, and like a captain, somebody of authority, and the news is there watching them. And they're going there and they go, oh, yeah, building 7. Okay. Yeah. And there's a fire. You can see a little bit of a fire. And
this is before the planes hit.
No, 1 and 2 hit. They hit what, like 8:56, like 9:05, and they crashed at 10:10 or whatever it was. This is 5 p.m. So it's 7 hours later, right? 7 hours later, building 7 collapses. Within there was Rudy Giuliani's headquarters. There were Secret Service buildings. There were IRS services when they're there. There were top echelon things all happening in there. This was Rudy Giuliani's emergency response area if anything happened in New York City. So I live in New Jersey, and Trenton is the capital, and Ewing is next to Trenton, and the state police building is there, and the Department of Health has their main building there. And at the state police building in Ewing is where Governor Murphy, all the governors have it. They call it the Rock. And it is this secure building. You have to get scanned in to get in there, but it just has the screens, the Jack Bauer area, all this stuff. But it is not in downtown Trenton. For you to have an emergency response thing in the World Trade Center complex, which was bombed in the 90s in the basement, just seems a little fucking odd to have your 8th floor place. You'd want to get away from the action so you can see things clearly. And what are your biggest targets? So that's where it was. Anyway, building 7, 4:45, there's a news reporter. Hey, this thing just collapsed. It was still there. They have the owner of the World Trade Center complex. He's on there talking to the firefighters, and he goes, pull it. And the firefighter's like, yeah, we should pull it. All right, you want to pull it? Yeah, let's pull it. Just pull it. It's going to come down, pull it. Minutes later, the building comes down at free fall speed. All right, I had a mechanical engineer come on my episode, Tony. He comes on. He's done a bunch of interviews. He was on Gerardo Rivera, but when he had his own show before he was political, he was on there, went over all this shit. He works with 9/11 families. The NIST, the National Institute of Science Technology, whatever came out and talked about how all the buildings came down, and it's the pancake effect that came down and brought the Twin Tower 1 and 2 down, and it wasn't controlled demolition because obviously it was the top third of the building brought down the bottom 2/3, which it doesn't fucking work according to my guy. He comes on, and NIST is like, oh, this fire knocked the beam off. The tower off one of the radio towers is 130 feet tall. It fell and hit the building and knocked one of the beams off. That was in the middle. Well, he's like, oh, we did the analysis 300 feet apart, 130 feet, which wouldn't reach that way. There's no fucking way that this building would have free fall speed collapsed. And you can watch. I'll show you a thing afterwards. It's fucking nuts, dude. This thing collapses. That was the 3rd tower. No plane hit it. Nothing at all. There was a fire that was put out hours before this comes down. This is one of the main thorns in the legitimate 9/11 discussion. Okay, Tower 1 came down, Tower 2 came down. The Pentagon happened to get hit right where the accounting department was that was looking for this $5 trillion that was missing that Donald Rumsfeld talked about in an interview the day before. It happened to be just at the exact same spot in the Pentagon that they would have done this accounting information. And also when CNN ran to the Pentagon, there just happened to be a perfect circle in the building and nothing collapsed yet. And then later you'll see the top collapses down and they're like, oh, actually the plane just hit and the wings folded in. All this beautiful stuff just happened that planes don't just fucking do.
Happen chance.
Just yeah. But a plane runs into a fucking flock of birds. And next thing you know, the engines are out and the whole front's dented. But it hits a steel building and, it's fucking fine. But anyway, building 7 is often not mentioned because it's just fucking crazy to people. If you're like, hey, a 3rd building collapsed, like, oh, what hit it? Nothing. Some debris, it caused a little bit of an office fire and there was sprinklers and there was all this other stuff. Oh, what was in there? Oh, all these top government offices that would have had, maybe any paper trail to what was happening that day.
Nuts.
Yeah. So my son, I did slight red pill him a little bit because we were talking about it. And he's like, well, how did these planes happen? I was like, oh, well, they were running a training exercise that day. He's like, what? I was like, that whole week they were just running exercises with fake planes being hijacked. And, it was, how would you respond to them? I said, but normally a plane gets hijacked and you send up, an Air Force base
F-15,
20 miles from us.
F-15, you fucking blast it out of the air before it fucking causes any more kind of damage.
Yeah, but the 20 miles from us is a major Air Force base. They get up, they'll be in New York in 10 minutes.
We knew
None of
about
that.
the planes being hijacked before they hit. I mean, it was we had communication between the plane and us that there was knowledge. At that point in time, we should have blasted that motherfucker out of the air.
Yeah.
And the fact that the US government didn't is a huge red flag. Huge red flag. I mean, what do we have for Flight 93? Flight 93 was, I mean, we had two fucking F-15s just fucking chilling next to this fucking plane, ready to shoot it the fuck down before the crew was like, we finally got a hold of it. We're crashing this bitch.
Yeah.
So
Well, and allegedly for that too. I don't know. They had a lot to
How
come
do you-
out about the cell phone technology at that time. And then people were like, all that stuff is like,
You
I just
gotta
don't understand how that's not the giant red flag. Like if the technology doesn't exist, how did you make that phone call?
Yeah. All of the fucking people on the plane.
Yeah,
I don't wanna
that's
say
super
that-
sad, but it's hard to separate the emotional attachment. Like you're in third grade, you're talking to your son about it. You're emotional about it. I live in, I'm a suburb of Philadelphia, but like I can get up to New York in 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people in my area. A woman I'm friends with, her uncle was a pilot. I don't know if he was the main pilot, but he was a pilot on the plane that crashed into the towers. Now, like, I'm not gonna sit here and fucking tell her like boo about the shit
Mhm.
because like she doesn't give a shit. Like her uncle's dead.
Yeah.
Like, does she care? Like
Whether, regardless of if it was conspiracy or not, these people are
Right.
actually dead.
the equation ends up and her uncle is dead. Like she does not give a fuck.
Yeah.
And that's like half the area around here. It's just like I don't give a shit. Like I know somebody who died.
How do
It's
you
'cause
feel
they-
about
they
the?
make the emotional to it? Good.
How do you feel about Titanic?
So Titanic, I heard some of those stories. One,
I'm
what I was
ready
amazed
to
about.
fucking battle about this. Let's go.
Yeah. So, but no, what I was amazed about was that Titan submersible that exploded earlier in the year.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. If you showed me a map and told me where to put the Titanic sunk at, I had no idea it was so fucking close to New York. Like they almost made it. It is really close to being off the shore of New York.
Is it really?
It really is. Yeah.
See, I didn't know that.
I was
thought it would be-
amazed.
I just that part I
It
didn't
was
know about.
3/4 of the way across before it sunk.
And they just so happened to hit an iceberg.
And they hit, yeah. So do icebergs go that low? Like, I don't fucking know, man. I don't know what the climate was then. We had a mini ice age apparently. And so, like, I work in Trenton. So Washington Crossing is up there. And they make this
Mhm.
whole great thing about him on the boat and like he's getting through the ice. My younger days, I probably could have threw like a Nerf turbo football across from one side to the other. Like, it's not that big of the Delaware up there. It's not crazy for him to go on a boat. And he's like, oh, and there's supposed to be a mini ice age on this. It's like, I kind of get it. But also, he wasn't rowing across the Mississippi that was raging. It was so there's a little bit of a story that goes into this. So
With me, how do you feel about the Olympian and the Titanic being swapped?
like the sister thing. So I've seen some things about that and like the insurance scam they were going to go for it.
That's my favorite conspiracy.
Yeah,
hands
no,
down.
I enjoy it to talk in detail about it. I don't know so much. I've seen it, and I think that's interesting. So they had one ship that was overpriced, over
So
processed.
the
and there
Olympian,
were some
the
flaws.
Olympian was a ship that was its older sister to the Titanic. The Olympian was ready to go. It was pretty much at its end, and then we have this beautiful class line ship that looks just like it. And I think there was like a couple, I think like 2 or 3 feet of difference between the ships. Now, the owner had his own room on the ship. That is important detail to remember.
Titanic or Olympian?
The Titanic, whenever
Okay.
it was doing its maiden voyage.
Yep.
So we also had some very important people. His business partners, the owner of Hershey, fucking goddamn everybody. Everybody that was important to his, I guess, circle, connections to people that were basically business rivals. Put them all on the ship. We have this giant insurance policy on this brand new ship that has like 40 different fucking hulls that's supposed to survive this fucking journey. You have a captain that's supposed to be paying attention the entire time. And you're going to go ahead and tell me that they didn't take the old ship, give it a nice new little paint job, rename it, but say, this is the Titanic, everybody get on it. And then the owner of the ship, who has his own private cabin, and his best friend, the owner of Hershey's, they last second pull off the ship and then send that bitch out to sea and then watch it sink. Not only are they sinking their competition they are also being fucking rich off this bitch.
And it
whoever
created the
survives,
Federal
survives.
Reserve, right? It was everybody who was opposed to the Federal Reserve was on there. And then they had no opposition anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm not against hits. I'm not against, mafia hits, government hits, business people hits. It's easier to do that. It's easier to buy people off too. Are they going to arrest Milton Hershey? Are they going to arrest this guy has schools out here? Hershey Park is 2.5 hours from me. We're talking about going there in like 2 weeks. Like we went up there and did the whole Hershey tour. This dude like failed chocolate man, and then like instantly schools built Hershey. I was like
rich,
kind of like a little crazy.
A billionaire, and he's got all this stuff that's tied to him. It's nuts, man. That's my hands down favorite conspiracy. I fucking love learning about this stuff.
It's sad though, that it's like that. But like, why wouldn't they do that? Like they had a sunk because the original ship was not like seaworthy, right?
The Olympian was on the verge of being retired, and later,
so whatever happened to the Olympian after the Titanic? What happened with that?
It was scrapped. You can look it up.
So the brand new ship, the Titanic, was scrapped.
Scrapped. Yeah. So it is. You can literally look this up on Google for the listeners that are tuning into this right now.
The ones that are still here.
Yeah, I was gonna say after all of our conspiracy bullshit, after everything, you can look up what happened to the Olympian class liner ship that was sister to the Titanic. It was called the Olympian. I can't remember the type of cruiser it is, but yeah, you can look up the Olympian. And you can find out that the Olympian, after a few years after the Titanic, quote unquote, sunk, they scrapped it. It's too close to call, to be like, yo, this is 100% what happened. But this conspiracy, it calls me, man. It's one of those things where it's like, dude, there is no way you can be that negligent towards a ship, towards thousands of people on it, and have all your competitors on this ship. You pull yourself and your friend off this ship just to watch this fucker sink and make millions of dollars. But the problem with that one conspiracy is the payout. They had to pay out the families that lost loved ones during the ship sinking.
Yeah, but the payout for them to create the Federal Reserve and everything on the back end is worth it.
It is so worth it. There you go.
Yeah.
I was going to say that is the one flaw to that conspiracy. And everybody's like, well, what about the payout? And if you look at the payout, I think he ended up sinking like $180,000 into it at that point in time. You have this ship sink and it's like, well, we have the Federal Reserve now. So what's the trade-off? Couple thousand lives for current situations.
You know what? Also, all those people in steerage at that time, like they weren't worth anything. Like lives weren't valued. Like you were just like, okay, you're a lower class citizen. Like we'll give you $10.
That ship was lower class. The majority of that class or ship was lower.
So if you had a whole family or who's you're back in England, you're like, oh, that was my grandparents. I should get them. Like, okay, go hire a lawyer. Well, I have no money. Like, well, okay, there's no pro bono. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Hey, so with the Titanic, did you ever hear about the story of the Titan that they wrote in the 1800s? Did you ever hear this one? The late 1800s? So this guy wrote a fiction book about the Titanic. He wrote a fiction book called The Titan. And it is the exact same story that then happened about 25 years later to the Titanic. It was a luxury liner.
Was it Logitech based?
I don't know what that is. That
it was the controller they fucking used. The controller that fucking
this goes back to it. This goes back to it. So anyway, I'm sorry. I was like, is this
You're
like
fine.
a programming
I'm
joke?
totally there with you.
So they wrote this book, The Titan. It was a fiction book about a luxury liner sailing out from England to New York, and it hits an iceberg, and like all the fucking people die. And then 25 years later, this happens. Then, 80 years later, the submersible is named the Titan. Dude, full circle, mind blown, right? Name Titan. Fucking crazy.
I fucking hate would you chalk that up for coincidence, or would you say that is on an on purpose thing? Because I mean, there were like five lives lost on that submersible.
Yeah. No, that's very sad they lost those. I would say it's like the synchronicities where like things line up like just like a little too perfect, or are we in a simulation?
Love that word though. Synchronicities.
Beautiful word, man. Beautiful word. It is. I think it's just a hiccup in the universe. I'm not too sure what it is. I'd like to think we're more than a computer program. Sometimes I'm like, are we? Like, I don't know. Like the same stories get played out, but with like different people. And then you see this, and it's just it's a little fucking weird.
Are we over a what did you say? A repeating number? Hold on. What was the word?
Are we in a simulation? Are we just a part of a computer program? Are we that avatar? Are we the simulator? I think we're just more than that. I'm going to keep yelling out synonyms until you agree to one of them. Which one do you want? I mean, please pick one.
I believe the repeating pattern. I think that. Do you believe that we are a repeating pattern when it comes to our souls? That we are destined to the same destination?
No. So this is something. This is something I picked up from Duncan Trussell's podcast. And I don't know if you ever listened to Duncan Trussell, but he's a comedian. He's been on Rogan, but he's like super hippie, but like also stoner and mushrooms. So he's also like one with the earth type of thing. He also happens to know like everything about every religion and can just spout off on it for hours. And some of his guests do the same. He also has like dick joke comedians and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So he had one guy on here, or it was his thought, but it came down to we're soul families. And what that is are the people that you love, the people in your circle, the people close to you are meant to be there for a reason. Like I can't imagine, like the whole like soulmate. Oh, that's my soulmate. I find that to be like a little dumb, but like my kids like mean the world to me and more. My wife means the world to me and more. Right there. I feel like that has to mean more than we are a meat avatar for our soul, or this is meaningless and I'm just here to live and just to die. Like that we choose to come back here as a soul family, interact with whoever. Now, I would say that my wife and my children are I feel much tighter about them.
So we're always finding each other?
I think the people, I think that no interaction goes without purpose. And I think the ones that mean the most to you, like that is that's your soul family, and that's going to be there forever. And now you might go back to the great light in the sky or God or whatever it might be. And then you choose to come back down here whenever that is, or however that means. And like you come back. But like, I just find it's tough, man. I don't know if you ever had like, loss in your life. My neighbor, 3 years, great dude. I would see him every day. He was on a corner house and I was right there. And he had 2 young girls that matched up with my kid's age. And then he had a baby. They moved. We go over to their house. A week later, dude's in his young 30s. He dies of heart issues. Like fucking heartbreaking for their family, heartbreaking for their family. I can't even like the things that I felt for loss for like my friend, like don't compare like to that. Like it just doesn't seem fair. Like that guy wasn't just alive to be a nice, good person. He was like active in his church. Like he was like truly like, I like to think I'm a good person. I'm working on being a better person all the time. This guy was like, I wish I could be him. Like that's how good of a person he was. And for him to pass away like that just doesn't seem like that's the end of him. Like that would cheating the world. I think like cheating like the system. Like I just think that's like bullshit.
Do you place blame on anything or anybody? With this person,
with this person? I don't know. He didn't do like he'd have a beer on the weekends or whatever, so it wasn't like a substance abuse or anything. No, like I don't know. Like I also don't know his full like health history. Like, I'm not part of his family to like know all of that. But like, we got the outcome at the end. I just don't think that shit's fair, man. And I think that's also like with your family, like when shit happens, or like you see like a child might pass away in a family, like that shit's like not
like why is this
right.
happening?
But like it has to be like bigger. It has to be either like you chose to come here to experience that, or like, oh, I already led the good life. I already led the Elon Musk billionaire life. I need to come back and feel what it's like to like
be a human.
Right. And like, you hear those like, those rumors and conspiracy. You can't prove any of this shit, but maybe that's like why like sometimes the aliens come, like they want to feel stuff. Like, you see the Greys, they're all the same, like in all the pictures. None of them, you can't distinguish one from another. You don't know who Bob is from Sarah, from Dave. Like they're all the fucking same. Yeah, we're all different. And I know it's really sad. I would be very sad if I didn't know my, especially my wife and my kids in the next world. And that's what kind of gives me peace and joy. What about you?
For me, I'm a very bleak person. For me, it's when it ends, it ends. And I know this is not the best way to end a podcast, but I feel like we have one life, we have one chance, we have one opportunity, so make it count. And I don't believe in transfers of souls. I don't believe in the afterlife. I don't believe in there's a heaven, there's a hell. I believe that once it's done, it's done. We are here to progress. And we have made this imaginary fictional thing to make us feel better about the afterlife and how to live our lives the way we should as human beings. And if we pursued that style of living, and that gives you fulfillment, and that gives you a reason to be good, and a reason to get out of bed in the morning, and a reason to not be a judgmental prick, then I want you to go for it. I want everybody to go for it. I want everybody to find their reason to live. I want everybody to find their reason to coexist and to maintain a humanity where we can find a way to speak every language. I know this is the most hippy dippy shit I could possibly say, but to be able to find a language to coexist and to be able to commune together as one. We are human beings. I don't care if you're Asian, black, white, fucking anything. Doesn't matter. You are literally just another human being on the same floating rock in space. And I just want peace. I don't know how to put it. I just want there to be an end. That is the hardest question I've ever been asked.
So I just want you to know, you're talking about this floating rock in space. I just want you to know that rock is flat. That's what we need to take away from this. Tyler, thank you for coming on tonight. I sincerely appreciate this. Plug something. Where can people find you? What is happening?
So you can find me on Men of Misfortune at Instagram. I hold on, my bad. I'm sorry. That threw me off. That was fucking hilarious, dude. You guys can find me at Men of Misfortune at gmail.com. That's our email.
Don't email them, people. Come on.
You can find me at Men of Misfortune Podcast, all one word, at Instagram, Men of Misfortune on Facebook. You can email us at menofmisfortune@gmail.com. I'm going to be doing a new show, 2 new shows, one about music, one about Midwestern problems. One's going to be called Scene, as in music scene, SCENE, and Unheard. And the other one is Midwestern Tap. These are all new shows. They should probably be airing sometime in January. But if you would like to have a conversation with me, if you'd like to have me on your show or whatever kind of bullshit, find me on Instagram. I'm always there. I'm always available. Brian, this has been one of the best shows I have ever done in my entire life. This is the sincerity and the seriousness of this conversation that Men of Misfortune does not have. We don't have this kind of serious talk. It's all comedy, it's all anime, it's all true crime and bullshit. This is what I live for. And Brian, thank you so much for giving it to me.
Open door policy, my man. You're welcome back whenever. I sincerely appreciate it. You could have a 3rd show coming up. This could be the Brian and Tyler show where we just riff and just bullshit the whole time. I don't want to promise people anything. Don't want to get them too excited. It doesn't happen. But don't be surprised. But thank you so much. You have a great night. I will talk to you later.
Brian, thank you so much.
All right, man. I'll see you. All right, everyone. That was our show. Don't forget to leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast. Like and follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date in all things wild and weird. Check out the links in the show notes for more information on our guest. The biggest support you can offer is to tell everyone about the podcast. Until next time.